I know people will say, but that doesn't add up to a lot. But I'm actually asking you to do something really simple. Observe your environment. At work, at school, at home. I'm asking you to look at the people around you purposefully and intentionally. Invite people into your life who don't look like you, don't think like you, don't act like you, don't come from where you come from. And you might find that they will challenge your assumptions and make you grow as a person. You might get powerful new insights from these individuals. Or, like my husband who happens to be white, you might learn that black people, men, women, children, we use body lotion every single day. Now,
Context of White Supremacy. Gus T Renegade in for another broadcast, hopefully to share constructive information on the system of white supremacy. Today's date, Thursday, October 20th, 2016. So I have been told. This is our weekly broadcast on workplace racism. This is for victims of racism to dial in with any observations, problems, triumphs, if you have figured out some strategies that work well for minimizing conflict with other white coworkers, non-white coworkers, if you have figured out some things that neutralize racist activity to solve problems, if you have a black supervisor that is really plucking your nerves, but you have figured out some things to solve that problem, dial in. The number is 641-715-3640. The code is 564-943#. Press star 6 if you would like to participate. And I just want to emphasize for this program, this is not a spectator broadcast. I generally, for the program, am not, going and begging for people to call in and talk to me. That's generally not the way that we operate. But for this program, I do want to make sure that we are encouraging folks. I think it is helpful. If folks do not agree, certainly you could be doing other things with your time and energy. But I think it's very constructive to be able to hear different ways that racists function on the job, different things that they do, just so that we can observe patterns, things to be on the lookout for, and hopefully develop some counter strategies to neutralize those activities. I think it's very helpful for people to hear that it's not you, this is not some isolated thing. There's nothing defective about you or your performance on the job, most likely. What's happening is that white supremacy racism is being practiced against you. And I think that just having that corroboration from other victims of racism, where they have gone through the same thing. State again, we have some people that are a little bit younger, so they don't have an extensive work history. I think it's helpful for them to be able to hear from folks who have a little bit more expertise on the job, so they can know the types of things that you want to be mindful for. I think, at least my opinion, anytime that you have more information about what is likely to happen in your environment, I think that puts you in a much better position in terms of your ability to function and to strategize in advance about things you might need to do. So definitely encourage folks to chime in. And I'll even throw out also, if you would be interested in doing any sort of role play so that you can get practice about what you want to say on the job, I'd be down to do that as well. We've done that before and even had some rekindled interest. So if you want to practice what you say, if you are being subjected to unwanted touching, we could do that as well. Just let us know, putting that out as a suggestion also. But the number again, 641-715-3640, and the code is 564-943#. Press star 6 if you would like to participate. Really quickly, the audio clip that we heard at the beginning, I think it's been said a few times over the years, it can be constructive to hear the episodes of the C.O.W.S sequentially, hearing them in the actual order that they were produced. our guest on yesterday's broadcast, Miss Allison Manswell. We discussed her book, Listen In, which is about racism on the job. She was with us yesterday, and within her book, she mentions quite a few, even though her book is written in a fiction format, she mentions like quite a few real people who have works about racism and or diversity. One of the people that was mentioned was the audio segment you heard at the beginning. That was Melody Hobson. This is a black female. She's one of the few black females who is the head of a Fortune 500 company, but she did a TED Talk. It's called Color Brave. You heard most of it at the beginning of the program today. I thought it was telling that she acknowledged being in a tragic arrangement, having a white husband near the end of her talk. But I thought that was interesting because that was mentioned in Miss Manswell's book. And the anecdote she started at the beginning about going to the luncheon that she helped plan, and when she got there, some white woman just assumed that she was the help. So they, were taking her and Harold Ford just were going to take them to the kitchen. That's what niggers do. The interesting thing is that Harold Ford in that campaign, he did get a lot of attention, but not for the reasons he would like. His white opponent ran an ad that was talking about basically saying he didn't have the character. He was running for an elected office, so they were saying he didn't have the character, the morals to be elected, that he had taken money illicitly, and that he was involved with a prostitute. And so they have a white prostitute at the end of this commercial, an ad against him, saying, "Call me Harold." And this caused a big to-do, the whole black male, white woman thing, and any sort of suggestion of sexual activity. It caused a big to-do, lots of controversy. People still point to that commercial when they talk about racism and politics and what they call dog whistle politics. But Mr. Harold Ford, who she mentioned in that anecdote, did get a lot of attention dealing with racism. Anyway, a few anecdotes I will share before we get started. Again, people can feel free to email. My email address, untiljustice@gmail.com. untiljustice@gmail.com. Feel free to drop an email if you are not able to participate live via phone, and I can read whatever your situation is, and folks can respond or give you feedback during the broadcast. We can do it anonymously, so you can allay some of your fears, but untiljustice@gmail.com. Folks who wrote in, first up, so there was a female caller last week who shared that she was having difficulty with a job because of a failed drug test. Her situation had me thinking, it's been my observation that many jobs that are difficult for black people to get into do not conduct drug testing. The education field, which I am a part of, would be an example. You would think that teaching could be a field, if any, that would conduct drug tests, but when the majority of teachers are white female at that, specifically white females, I suppose that goes out the window. During the course of my last job, many teachers talked openly about using various drugs, and some even came to work high regularly, including the principal, who was also white. He would even reek of marijuana at times. On Fridays, a group of white teachers would use their lunch break as a smoke break and come back to school high. Personally, I have concluded that drug testing is a method used to keep many black people away from jobs that can be gained without a degree or certifications. Good point. Particularly to keep in mind if that continues or is changed as the cannabis laws, drug laws are adjusted. Next commentary. Person wrote in. So this is the pool builder in Arizona. Probably the only black pool builder in Arizona. So you could just say contractor. Anyways, I run across racism all the time. I mean, it's everywhere at all times. But I had an incident last week where I was at a customer's house doing some work. He happened to be from Seattle. How about that? Said he worked for a big garbage company up there. Told me stories of him being at the restaurant when the Starbucks deal was struck by some Jew, and as he said, ha. Anyways, he's telling me all these stories. He then calls himself a nigger, and I'm like, what? He's a white guy, by the way. I was totally codified and didn't react much to it, just sort of chuckled. Most customers and most white people don't see me as black, but see me as either Mexican, Puerto Rican, Hawaiian, or whatever. He then calls President Obama a half-breed motherfucker. I had to chuckle at this one. This guy was blatant with his words and didn't hold back at all like most white people do, which was more refreshing, I guess, than the typical secretive racism. By training myself in being codified has helped me a lot. Back in the day, I would have went at it with him and there would have been conflict. I was one of the people who Neely Fuller said he's never seen that wouldn't back down to white people no matter where I was, and they would usually back down to me, but there would always be conflict everywhere I went. Well, now I avoid it and try to minimize it as best I can because it's always there. I worked at this guy's house for about 4 days last week, and each day he uttered the word nigger. I asked him about Seattle, never been there myself, and I had heard of this burger joint called Dick's. I've been there, from the Sir Mix-a-Lot song. He then tells me the story of when he was in high school and how they used to hang out at Dick's, and there would be a lot of black people there. He went to Seattle Prep. I'm sure a mostly white school, aren't they all? He said that one of his buddies would walk up in front of all the black people and he would order a nigger burger from the cashier. He thought this was the funniest thing. I thought it was really sad. This was one guy who didn't hold back on his racism. He even told me good boy a few times after I completed something. And I'm 41. Now this guy has paid me, given me Cuban cigars, brought out Pepsis for me, and damn near offered me his wife, cowbell. Some white people act really different when you're in their homes and they start to feel a little comfortable with you. Then, when I was getting into my truck to leave on the first day, he proceeded to almost get into my truck. He opened up the passenger door as I was driving off, and he had to tell me a few more things. He started rubbing the seats like white people do, and then said my truck was respectable looking, whatever that means. Moving forward, next person that wrote in. Okay, this is one of our numerous callers down in the North Florida area. Retail pharmacist. My current employer is a Florida-based grocery chain. I really wanted to call and share, but I know I won't have access to a phone while you are broadcasting. I will attempt to be as concise as possible, but I will need to put some things in perspective. My experience with racist suspect coworker is as follows. Monday, 2 days ago, I received a phone call from the coworker, a white female that I will call KM. The store KM works is 1.6 miles from the store I am assigned to. Though we haven't met each other personally, it is extremely unlikely that we are not aware of each other's racial classification, as we have spoken often on the telephone. She was calling to do a stock check for a prescription that was called in from a doctor's office. She told me that she checking my stock for the customer because our stores are so close, and that she didn't have it in stock. I checked, and in fact, we did have it. She called at the end of rush hour about 90 minutes before 8 p.m. closing. This time of day can be somewhat hectic. The technicians are normally gone, and there are customers to check out. This time of day, we are forced to multitask, answer phones, fill prescriptions, and ring up customers. The drug KM was checking on was controlled drug categorized as C5 by the Drug Enforcement Agency. To keep perspective, all controlled drugs have potential for abuse, misuse, but C5 is the lowest level. Drugs such as heroin, ecstasy, etc. are C1 and can't be legally sold. C2, such as hydrocodone, Percocet, and the various amphetamines are tightly controlled. The point I'm making is that though the cough syrup she was checking on is something that can be abused, misused, the amount prescribed did not fit the profile of misuse. Earlier, I mentioned the check was during the end of rush hour. Since I had the drug and the customer's representative agreed to it, KM said she could give me the prescription. She didn't want to enter the prescription in the computer as she was too busy. Rather, she would fax it. She faxes the prescription just as the nurse called it in. I'm still rather busy, and about 15 minutes later, the patient's representative, a non-white friend, arrives. From here, I think it best to just give the facts. 1. About 5 minutes after faxing, she calls to say she was uneasy about the filling prescription. I'm certain the patient's friend had left KM's store on the way to my store. Number 2, she faxed the prescription just as she transcribed it. The first name was misspelled. The last name was not written in its hyphenated form. This is relevant because my employer does not have the latest dispensing software. That omission makes it almost impossible to locate an existing patient. Number 3, the date of birth was incorrect. Wrong date, though month and year were correct. This does not happen often, but this can happen with phoned-in prescriptions. It is common practice to correct incorrect information or call the doctor back if you are truly unsure. A missing or incorrect date of birth further complicates locating the patient. Number 4, after the non-white patient's representative arrived, it took me about 20 minutes to finally locate the patient in the computer system. The patient's friend did not have the patient's insurance card, but was certain the patient had filled prescriptions with my employer. The 20 minutes consisted of the patient's friend sick with the flu. Without that information, it's impossible to bill the insurance company. I initially had to fill the prescription as cash for $16. After locating and updating the patient information in my store's local database, I rebilled the prescription. The patient only had a $2 copay. I also noticed that the patient normally fills at KM's store. It seems unlikely that KM didn't know who the patient was. There was no reason for her not to enter the prescription in the computer. This would have been easier as I could have pulled the prescription from her system. If KM was truly too busy to enter it, she could have corrected the transcribed prescription that she had written before she faxed the prescription to me. Number 5, though the patient did have several controlled medications on her profile, it truly paled in comparison to other profiles I've seen with chronic controlled drug misusers. Number 6, once the prescription was filled and sold, I decided to access our inventory check software. My employer does not have the most efficient computer systems, but there are ways to search other stores' inventories. Simply put, it's just so cumbersome, most pharmacists just call. I accessed the program and searched for the drug that I just sold, sorting by distance from my store. No surprise, the closest store that had twice the prescribed amount was KM's store. I'm not sure which non-white the tackiness was directed towards, the patient, the patient's representative, or me. Probably all of us. Tacky, tacky, tacky. I was thinking all of them too. I had more other people wrote in, but I will sprinkle those in as we go. Feel free, again, email untiljustice@gmail.com if you would like to email in your commentary on workplace racism. That said, folks who dialed in with a hand up, if you have commentary you would like to share, feel free. Line should be open.
Can I be heard?
Heard quite a few folks.
I'll wait. Oh, okay. Oh, I was going to make it quick. I do have my own incident. Greetings to you, Gus. This is Ross, and to all the callers and the listeners. Yeah, I do have my own incident. I'll talk about it later, but I just wanted to chime in on the most recent email that you read. And working in the healthcare industry, I can agree with you absolutely. Whoever this KM person is a racist white supremacist. I wouldn't even call her a suspect. It looks like she wanted the patient to go out of their way, as well as the fact that she basically set up the black female at the other store in a way in which it would make her job much more complicated, like she explained. And working in the healthcare industry, it's funny because those things, simple things like a hyphen missing from a name, sometimes they'll put the wrong gender, and it not only messes up their ability to get prescriptions. I work on the billing end, and insurance companies won't cover a claim if any information is incorrect. If the birthday is wrong, they're not going to cover it. If the gender is wrong, they're not going to cover it. If the name is misspelled, they're not going to cover it. So it creates even an issue down the road for that black person whose prescription is being processed incorrectly. So yeah, it definitely seems like a premeditated act of racism, white supremacy, where there was a lot of forethought in what was done, simply because, like the person said at the end, when she did curiosity said, "Let me take a look and see what the inventory was," and the female who called, had inventory twice the inventory she had at the other store. And that's why even when I write about white women, I write female as in FEEMALE, because anytime you deal with them, you're going to pay. And sometimes you can pay with your life. Other times you'll pay with this extra 20 minutes that was completely unnecessary. And with that, I'll mute my line for now. Thank you.
Good evening, everyone. I'd like to share a few stories. These were people that I've worked with in the past. On one particular incident, there was a young black male that was relatively new to our workplace, and he had he was pretty, I guess you want to say, charming. He liked to communicate with everyone all the time. He was kind of looked at as a playful. And he would have little incidents where I guess he would get into minor trouble. Later on, it ended up, he got into a bigger incident, which he was reprimanded for. But he was known to be charming, and a lot of the women from other workspaces would come to try to say hi to him or whatever. But on one particular day, he was absent, and his name was brought up for some reason. I don't know exactly what the reason was, but I think maybe someone was looking for him or something like that. And then there was a white male who was he was really in a higher position than this black male, and they used to work together frequently, quite a bit. And this white male said, that guy, he's just a good old farm boy. He's just a good old farm boy. And, at the time I was a lot more confused, and I knew it struck me as something that was wrong. He might as well have said, he's a good old nigger or whatever. But, and I just recently looked that up, and there was a couple of definitions. And I think two of the definitions was what this white male intended for it to mean for this black male. One of the definitions, this is, I guess, the Urban Dictionary, so to speak, and it says farm boy, someone who lives on a farm that enjoys making love to the assorted animals on the farm. And then the first definition, the other definition I think that he was trying to say about this black male was unsophisticated or uneducated person, a simpleton. So that was one example. Another example was at another workplace. We're really into getting into sports, after work. We have sporting teams. And a lot of the white males who were in supervisory positions, in a higher position than myself and all the other black males that were on the job, they were practically begging all of us to come join this particular team. I'm not even going to name the sport. No, actually, I'll just say it was a softball team. And a couple of the young black males did, play on the team. And one of the other white guys would just keep begging me, come on, come on. Of course, they start really complimenting you because, you know, we played sports before, and they said, oh, man, you guys are so athletic, man. You're so athletic. Please come out. Come on out. And I just never did. But in one game, well, there was several games during the so-called season, and then sometimes the white males would talk to me and say, man, you know, they would say, this black male, man, he just can't do anything out there. He's just messing up. He's totally, he's, you know, terrible. He's trash. He can't play or whatever. And they're just totally trashing the black males. They say, okay, they'll make a good play here and there, but overall they're causing us the game or whatever. So, and then I would talk to the black males, of course, and they would tell me totally the opposite, that, you know, these white guys would blame them for stuff, but those guys couldn't make plays whatsoever. And they were just completely, and then I actually went out to watch a game, and as I thought, you know, these white males couldn't play so well, and they were just kind of arguing with the black males when they couldn't make the play, and they would blame the black males for it. And then they were also beg this other white male. I guess they assumed that, you know, since he was white, he could play softball real good. And he ended up being, you know, just a horrible player, basically. My last example was actually, maybe I'll come back later in the broadcast. Thank you. That's all I have.
Right on. I will make sure I get in. I'm no advocate of the extracurricular sporting activities, specifically if this is going to be, well, I'll say especially if it's going to be something where this is like a recurring thing, like we have a league with maybe some other companies or some other sites within our particular company or what have you. Forget that. Like, no thanks. I don't care what it is. If it's basketball, softball, baseball, bowling, ping pong, I'm cool. I got things to do, or, you know, I'm helping my children. They're having a tough time with schoolwork, so I'm really having to hunker down with them and make sure that we get through this. Whatever excuse you need, but I would not recommend that for a variety of reasons. Other folks have commentary they wanted to share. Everyone who dialed in with a hand up, line should be open. No spectators, please.
Can I be heard?
Yes, ma'am. You're a little low, but if you could speak up a little bit, that would be helpful.
Okay. Is this better?
Yes, ma'am.
All right. Awesome. Greetings, everybody. I have just like a few notes. First for the clip that we heard earlier, and also for yesterday's show. I didn't comment, but I did listen. One of the things I've been kind of paying attention to is this like use of metaphysical spirituality or something like that as some reason to rise above racism. And like, you know, the caller from last night, or the speaker from last night, she kept talking about energy and all that kind of stuff. And I'm not trying to say that that doesn't have a place or that that doesn't have any validity, but I don't think that it's necessarily useful or constructive or logical to use when talking about racism. She seemed very confused to me. And then this woman that we just heard at the beginning of the clip kind of sounded the same way. And she said something that made me think about the whole being special, and in an effort to make sure that I am also translucent or like honest. You know, it is really easy to feel as though you're special or something about you is special, that you somehow made it off of your own volition and not necessarily part of being constructed into the system functioning. Like, we need you to be our face or our voice or something like that, to go back to the niggers, or to the niggers, as you say, you know, like that. And so for her, when she said, you know, I've lived a great life and all that kind of stuff, and then to try to tell other people that we really should talk about racism because she somehow thinks that it worked for her, that's not logical to me. And it just seemed to me that obviously she's confused because she's with a white man, but that it just screamed to me of feeling special. and thinking that, there's something special about you. And I understand that personally, too. I'm far less confused, so I know I'm just a puppet or being used as a puppet like anybody else on the plantation. But I do understand, like, that thing. Just a few quick things. So today we had a meeting. I'm the caller that's in the D.C. area. I live in Virginia, but I work in D.C. And we have a new PM. I don't know if whoever's been listening to the story. There was a property manager. I worked 2 years with him, put in all this effort, all this other good stuff, and then he left and put in pretty much his frat best friend. And one thing I've been noticing about this guy is he walks around with a golf stick. Like, he literally walks around the office, like, in this, like, slow, calculating walk with a golf stick that he, like, twirls around, if that makes sense, if someone could envision that. And I asked him, like, I brought it up. I was like, so you just really love golf, huh? And, he, and then he, of course, whatever. But I was like, that was my way of saying, you really, like, he'll literally come by my desk, come out of his office. My desk is in the front. I sit in the front desk and be swinging this golf stick. I'm pretty sure that that's a well-sing moment, but it really makes me uncomfortable because he doesn't have anything to say or anything to do. And I'm just like, what is this? Like, would it be a whip if this was back in the day? Anywho, another thing I've noticed is there's a lot of indirect talking either to or about me. Like, no one will specifically ask me to do something, but they'll say something's not done. And then it'll be like this, like, glare or something. And I'm like, well, no one even, because I do a lot of things that I'm not supposed to do, all in the hopes that I would be brought on to the company. And I pretty much just stopped doing that. Like, if it's not outlined in my contract, then I'm not really pressed about it. Like, screw all that. But anywho, but in an effort to keep my job until I make my next step, I've been paying attention. I've been, like, speaking on it, too, Like, one was about not having sugar. I do order our supplies. I had no idea it was about sugar. And so I ordered sugar, like, he came and he talked, okay, let me be more coherent here. The assistant property manager came out of his office making a joke with a vendor who came in that had nothing to do with supplies or anything like that. And was like, all right, anything I can do for you? And he was like, well, if you could have some sugar in our office, and it was like by my desk. And I was like, no one even told me we were out of sugar. I had no idea. I didn't go back there, whatever, So a way for me to know that we needed sugar. And then another one, was talking about how he couldn't find some particular invoice, but the way he's doing it is like, well, you should be finding this invoice for me. And I don't understand why not just ask me these things or let me know these things. But that's something that I've been noticing about, like, the dynamic of my office, just in case other people may have noticed something similar in their office. Today we had a meeting. This was our first meeting with the new PM. Now, these are like Southern, I don't want to say Southern, but these are Virginia boys, everybody. We're all working in D.C., but living in from Virginia. And it was real funny because we sat at the desk, and he pretty much said, this new PM was like, I don't care what you've done for the past few years and how hard you worked before. It's all new, and I don't know you. And they literally, so the assistant property manager, the property manager are white. The two engineers are, I think they're Ecuadorian, they're Hispanic. And then the security and the concierge, myself, are black. So if you can see the dynamic there. So we're all sitting there, not the security, but just me. I guess I represent the black folks. And, he pretty much says that. And he even says that it's okay to yell. Like, there's this whole tone about how the managers are talking, and even the head engineer, about how it's okay to yell at the people beneath them or like say that they're not doing stuff and they're doing this, having this whole conversation amongst themselves, and they keep cutting eyes at me. And that also validated for me, like, what I'm thinking is I'm not crazy. They know what they're saying because they keep looking at me to see if I'm going to have a reaction, because they're pretty much saying, we can whip up on these people beneath us. We don't care what work they've done. We don't care. We're not interested. Look, you're replaceable. It's whatever. You're contracted. Who cares about you? And we'll just get rid of you. I will say I wanted to be a little bit like the spook, so I got a hold of a contract and a template just so I could scan some, and I found out that race, they called it riots. Riots are actually written into the contracts with the property management company. So if you have a contract with this company, it's actually written in there what happens in case of a riot. And I just thought, well, that's, like, you can't tell me that's not systematic. Like, that oppression is understood in a systematic way, that even a contract for glass door replacement is calculated in there. Well, hey, if the black people start rebelling or we have something, whatever, you're still bound to this contract. I thought that was pretty fascinating, actually. And then a horror story, like just in case this might have happened to somebody else, didn't happen to me, but the new property manager told that there's this guy at his other building who didn't like this other property manager and kept telling that there was a rat infestation. So he actually got a rat, killed the rat, put it in a box, and mailed it to this property manager. And I wanted to know if this property manager was non-white so bad, but I couldn't ask. And I was just wondering if it was going to come out, but it didn't. But that's just the just the creepy psychology of white people. And that was like normalized. He was able to do that, this white man over at the other building. There's also, so this white woman, I've been paying attention to these white women. I'm going to wrap it up real quick. I have more, but after this I'll stop, and then if there's time I'll come back in. So we have this white woman in this building who is a pain in the behind. And she is like, she would have been like a female overseer if we could put it in no metaphors. Anyway, she's terrible. She's terrible to work with and all this stuff. Over time, I guess she got promoted or whatever, so she's a little like relaxed. But there's so much effort that's put on us as the team to appease this white woman. Whatever she wants, she gets. She calls, we run up there. The engineer, and then like here's an engineer. His job, the Latino, his job is to fix stuff. If the air conditioning goes out, if the knobs don't work, if the lights are out, like whatever, he fixes stuff. His job is not necessarily like customer service. If you ask him a question, he'll tell you, yeah, this is out, I can't do this, blah, blah, blah. But there's a whole lot of talk about how he has to adjust how he talks to her. And if he does not, they'll actually fire him. Like, he's liable to lose his job if he doesn't adjust how he talks to this white woman. And I just thought that was fascinating, because the minute we were all sitting there having lunch, and I think it's just amazing how they do this. They've done it to me, which is when I was just like, you know what? I'm done. I knew what it was, but I got kind of stupid or silly, or I forgot, or whatever it is, but I'm hip now, The minute he got up, because he got called on the radio, he was on the table, and the whole conversation was pretty much berating vendors, berating the engineers that are beneath, them. And I'm pretty sure when I left and I'm not around, it's talking about whatever stuff I'm lacking or I'm not doing. And so I maintain that I have absolutely nothing to say to these white people at all, if it has nothing to do with my job. And all I do is just watch. And one of the elements that I've added to my mask is like a sense of naivete. Like, I just have no idea what's going on. And it's so, I don't know if it's really working, but they'll look at me and I'll just look them dead in the eyes, but my eyes show I don't know, what, you know what I'm saying? Just because I don't need you looking at me every time you do something wrong, and I'm looking at you I know that's wrong. And then we have this tension between us. No, I still know, but I don't need you to know that I know. So that's something. Like I said, I don't know if it's working, but that's what I'm trying now. Thank you. And if there's time, I'll share some more.
Wowee. That is a lot. I did want to say, number one, where you said they have it within the contract, how they are going to respond to riots and the impact that has on the contract or not. Just to reiterate what I said before about racists, they plan and rehearse for riots. We don't. That is another reason why we shouldn't participate in them. Anyway, the Welsing moment that you picked out about him this white guy strolling the office with his golf club, it could be a whip, absolutely. To me, I was thinking that's total phallic symbol. I don't know if if he's coming out and loitering around your desk area just to check you out or whatever the case. But I mean, long history of white men and white women raping, sexually molesting Black people, males, females, children. So that's kind of what I was thinking, that might be what's going through his mind, that, I could show this nigger wench here, what time it is. There were a few other interesting tidbits within that as well. I'll pause in case other folks had questions or comments that they wanted to respond to. I guess I'll ask that question really quick of you. Have you got any sense of any sort of, this white man is, checking me out in a sexual kind of manner?
Can I be heard?
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah, I have. I put on a facade of naivety, but I'm not naive. I've watched, and there are times that I have to really maneuver carefully because they'll physically place themselves in my path or in my way. Like if we all have to walk upstairs, I'll be like, no, y'all go ahead. Otherwise, they want me to walk up so that they can walk up behind me. Or like, and because I don't know how effective it is, but when I can make my eyes kind of glassy and it's like I'm just staring there, like, what is she thinking? You can't know. Like I watch their glissiness, their glitchiness when their mask breaks and you see like the jaw clench or their eyes move or what they're looking at or some of the things they said. And I'm a woman, like I totally know. You know what I mean? And I thought that too. It's unsettling and it's disturbing because I'm the one that works in the basement with the two white guys. So, you know what I mean? But yeah, I'm pretty sure that that's there. I know that's there, to answer your question.
Stay safe, man. Stay safe. Stay alert. If other folks, if you had questions on what you have heard thus far, or if you had your own incidents you wanted to share, feel free. Yes, ma'am. We can hear you.
Hello. This is Jay from Ohio. I'm sorry, I got a little bit of a sore throat. But I had actually been following along with you as far as with the reading of The Spook Who Sat by the Door, and I feel like it definitely has been very beneficial to me to help me be more codified. And I actually took a page out of Freeman's book as far as kind of complimenting my supervisor, making it seem as if, a suggestion that he provided me or something that he told me was just a really amazing idea, and it's basically something that I've already been doing for the past few months. So I definitely am appreciative for that, and also I am definitely appreciative for all the callers who have provided the good feedback because it definitely is helping me. The main thing that I feel like I'm still struggling with is to distance myself from my quote-unquote white friends that I had in the past, because I'm the one who actually had the issue with the white female constantly touching my chest. So it's kind of like I know that you're really supposed to go into a job codified, but I'm just kind of struggling with, now that I have the knowledge, now that I know what I know now, it's like, how can I go on from here? And that's all I have. I'll mute myself.
Yes, may I be heard?
Yes, sir.
All right. Greetings, guests, and to the rest of the callers. So, Halloween is coming up, and so a couple of people, mainly white, were having a discussion about what they're going to do. And I heard there was going to be like a Halloween party a few days before. And, one of them said they're going to dress up as a clown or something. And I didn't say anything because I didn't want to be a part of that mess. But one of them also said they were going to be Harambe. And I found that kind of significant because it's just, I don't know why you couldn't just say you could be an animal for Halloween, but you just have to be a specific name, and it just really got to me how life works. So they went on to ask me, and I just said I don't even know if I'm gonna participate for Halloween. I might not even dress up or anything. So they all got kind of confused and was like, "Well, why not? What do you have against Halloween?" And I just left because I didn't feel like being a part of that. But they just asked me a question, I just answered it. So, but yeah, I don't really celebrate Halloween just because of the beliefs and stuff, what goes on throughout the year, and it's just probably one of the worst days of the year. And it's just, yeah, I don't participate in Halloween, but yeah, that's all I have to share. Thank you for taking my call.
if someone were to ask you, like, hey, what's incorrect about these, young teenage students wanting to dress up like Harambe? They've had all these memes and everything, and people have been talking about it and trying to have some fun with a tragic situation. What's incorrect about that? What would your response be?
My response would be that it's just very irrelevant. Nobody else would have dressed. Well, last year nobody would have said to dress up as Harambe, and they're taking on a symbol of grabbing a black child and actually it's just they think it's funny. I just think it's unnecessary, but I don't know. I guess they were joking around, but I took it quite seriously, but I didn't say anything, but yeah, my response would be that it's just irrelevant and unnecessary when there are many costumes for you to wear, and even you don't even have to wear a costume. You don't even have to celebrate Halloween, but you choose to. But that would be my response.
Right on, right on. I know I've said that for years. Halloween, I think that is most representative of the Urugu identity and some of the core essences of what it means to identify as white. The deception and glorifying killing and death. Lots of the core elements of white supremacy on display. But that is a big one too. I've said that before. If you acting like you don't want to participate in Halloween, it's been my experience. Folks kind of get upset about that, particularly younger people. It's not quite as bad as Christmas, but it generally is pretty bad if you're acting like you're rejecting Halloween. You have to let us know how that evolves. Our young scholar in the Bay Area, let us know how it evolves for the rest of the month of October as we get close to the big day, I guess 10 days or so.
Can I be heard?
Yes, sir. Roz, if you could give me 1 second, I just wanted to ask the female. Oh, no apologies. I just wanted to ask the female caller that spoke before, our young scholar in the Bay Area, I guess if you could explain like the specifics about what problem you're having. Oh, it's a little bit of echo. I don't know. Somebody's on speakerphone or what the deal is. Okay.
Oh, I'm sorry. I took you off. I apologize.
Okay.
The main issue is that I do get when I get offers still to go and hang out, and actually one time when this has been like several months ago, I got an offer from a white female, and I always assumed at that time, I was definitely very naive, I assumed that she was, I didn't get any of the subliminal racist vibes from her or anything like that. She seemed real timid, what have you. But the place that we went to, it was like one of those lounges to where, you had to have like a membership card or something, and the door locked behind you. One of those type of places. I think they call like VWs, those type of places, and I really got a really bad vibe from there. And so it definitely made me curious as to, even though she's very timid, why would she still be in a place like this where, from my experience, you could find a suspected racist, white supremacist, or even a non-suspect, just a regular racist, white supremacist. So that's just the main thing, of just trying to still be cordial with them, but not give them that impression that I do want to continue with the extracurricular activities.
I see. I don't know. Do folks have suggestions? Because I know that has come up before when they have started a job and they start to get information about codification, counter-racism, and so they're trying to add that to how they function on the job, and sometimes that can cause some disruptions or make things a little bit uncomfortable. It certainly sticks out. Whites notice that generally immediately. Anybody have suggestions on how they would navigate that?
I would probably just basically set the stage for my schedule being different. That there's things that I do after work now that I wasn't doing back then, and these things supersede my ability to be able to stay at work. Whether it's you have a relative that's ill that you take care of, or you started taking some classes or going to the gym, or anything that you think, because you're in that situation, you know those people better than I do, but anything that you think would be a good enough excuse for your schedule being different in a way in which you no longer have the ability to spend that time with them after hours like you used to, pretty much. I think that might be a good way to go about it.
Okay, thank you. That really helps out tremendously. My sister, she's about to have a baby, so that I definitely have the best excuse. So thank you.
You're welcome. And once the baby's here, you can even say, hey, I'm babysitting. Bye. I'm out of here. You know what I mean? So it's a perfect excuse, and you can just keep it moving and distance yourself. And eventually they'll get used to that and they'll stop asking altogether because, hey, we already know what the deal is. She's watching her nephew or her niece. And, from there, it'll be wonderful. So, and also tell your sister, congratulations and much love to her and a safe delivery.
Thank you. Thank you.
I know the female caller in New York, we had discussed previously if it's a situation where they're seeming like they're trying to make it an issue, you declining their offers now when you did accept before, maybe having a schedule. And I think even some of that is in Spook Who Sat by the Door, part of Dan Freeman. He does go out time to time. He'll do a lunch with his coworkers from time to time. I certainly do not encourage anything after work, bars, that sort of thing, but he will do a lunch from time to time with them just to kind of maintain the facade, to keep down problems. So if they are making it an issue, you can, I think when the female caller in Michigan, I think we had talked about maybe like once a month, you do an outing just so they can't say that you never go out with them. But that may or may not be necessary depending on your situation.
Okay, thank you. I feel like the suggestions, I feel like that, given who they are, I'm trying not to, as I've been learning from all of this, not to underestimate them, but I think that would definitely give me a upper hand on the situation. But thank you.
Mm-hmm. Other folks had suggestions for her, or if you had questions about anything you've heard thus far, your own situation, feel free.
Gus, I did have a question. Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead. You go ahead. I had a question for the other female caller, but go ahead.
Greetings, everyone. The instance of Halloween motivated me to mention that white people go crazy over that particular holiday, primarily because you can be, as a white person, a quote-unquote adult, and engage in it. And also for the reasons that I heard Gus mentioning about that it's just a means to cloud the urge to be murderous or terroristic, and all of the other sick things that have something to do with that particular quote unquote holiday. I mean, I don't know about where everybody is at right now, where they reside, but people have been. I've seen people getting ready for that with their homes as early as late September, literally decorating things and whatnot, that sort of thing. So, and it's something that's called I believe, the holiday season, and it kind of like kicks off with Halloween. So everybody just needs to start preparing themselves for a strategy, because they come very quickly. Once Halloween goes, they come very quickly. So it'd be good to kind of like in a codified way, systematically already be prepared for them when they come along. Now, the easiest way out, you can call yourself a Jehovah's Witness. That's the easiest way out, I would say. I'm not necessarily advising anybody to not tell the truth about their religion or whatever, that sort of thing. But I wouldn't be mad at you for doing it. But just be prepared for it, and because the dates and how ahead of time it is for you, you can prepare for it and be able to get through that. I do feel for those people who really have to be confronted with that on the job. I kind of like took what I did for those 27.5 years kind of like for granted compared to what I've been hearing on this program. Because with me, I just had a look on my face that you better not ask me any damn thing, as far as that's concerned. let alone talking about going somewhere in close proximity where white people were at anyway, or anything. But I do understand just from listening to this program on how in other jobs it can be quite a lot of pressure involved with it that makes it much more complicated than what my experiences were. And I'll be quiet and chime in later on. Thank you.
Appreciate that, retired firefighter. Roz, were you going to get your question in, sir?
Yes. I wanted to say first for the black female who said she had a sore throat. If you can get your hands on, they sell it on Amazon. It's called Young Living Thieves Oil Mouthwash. It'll actually kill that really quickly, and also pineapple juice is good for that as well. It actually works, they say, about 5 times better than cough syrup, and I've tried it and it does work. So it's something else you might want to try as well. For the black female who works in the basement with these creatures, I wanted to know if she's taken any measures to protect herself, because that just really struck a chord with me as far as when she talked about that, and I really want to just empathize with you for that, because that's just a horrible scenario to be in.
Is the female caller still with us? Don't know if she hit her mute button. Not hearing her.
I'm sorry. I'm still here. I'm the one with the sore throat. I'm sorry. Can you repeat that cough syrup, because that would be great.
Yes, it's called Young Living Thieves Oil Mouthwash. And it's extremely powerful, but it'll kill all the germs in your throat, and it'll help you feel a lot better. And if you have Amazon Prime, they can usually deliver it within about 2 days. And then also you can utilize pineapple juice. That is also awesome on the sore throat as well.
Okay, thank you.
You're very welcome.
I guess the caller that worked in the lower level with the other white males, and there was concerns about them eyeing you up, that sort of thing. Are you still with us as well, or?
I hope you didn't lose it.
Hello?
Oh, okay. Yes, ma'am. Was that you? You worked with the other white males, and there was concerns they might be eyeing you up?
Yes.
Okay. Raj, you want to repeat your question?
Yes, I just wanted to ask if you have been able to take any measures to protect yourself, simply because I'm concerned about that. That just really kind of disturbed me. I think that's just a horrific situation to be in, and I sincerely empathize with you.
I carry mace, and well, here's the thing. I guess I could be delusional about it to think I don't see myself being pulled in the back and being raped or anything like that, although it is quite possible. My intention, my plan is to dip quite soon, and to just put myself in an entirely different environment and situation. But my immediate measures, everywhere, I always have stuff. Let me put it like that. Whether it's mace, whether it's my letter opener or my scissors, or, you know what I'm saying? I always have things on my person and in strategic places where I would be, because I have calculated in any environment. I have done that. But my intention is to leave this job. I have no intention. I don't even care about the whole promotion thing or anything like that. I'm just ready to go. I appreciate your concern, though.
Okay, wonderful. And also, if you're interested, on Amazon.com, they have something called a credit card knife, and it looks like a credit card, but you can fold it.
I have the key.
Oh, you do? Okay, good.
Yeah, I got the key on my keychain.
Wonderful, wonderful, good. I just wanted to throw that out there too. And the tactical pen is pretty good. They have one. Yeah, get one of those, and you can really put a hurting on somebody if they try to touch you, especially, hit them in the privates. It's a wrap. So I just wanted to give you some of those suggestions, because you really had me nervous. So just be careful, and I wish you the best in your transition as well.
And I will tell you this. Thank you very much. I will. Yeah, I got the key. I love my key.
Okay, wonderful.
But there's this chokehold that was floating around on Facebook, so I shared it. But I'm also I watch that on a regular basis. You know what I mean? Because then I'll need to practice at some point. But how to move the shirt and anything, if someone tried to aggress me. But yeah, I think about it.
All right, wonderful. I wanted to actually chime in with my own workplace situation as well. Speaking about Halloween, they have like this whole celebration coming up on my job, and people can bring, I guess, like their children with them, and they're going to have some sort of scavenger hunt. I just made it clear from the very beginning, I don't do Halloween, and I really don't do holidays at all. I said I celebrate African holidays. That's my spirituality, so I don't deal with any holidays whatsoever. And I make that clear every holiday, so they know not to even bother me with that, and I just lay the law down early, and it kind of just keeps me out of any scenarios where they want me to participate in those sorts of debased European holidays. And also, I think just the fact that I live so far from the job, I have my own situation with my family outside of work, and then a lot of these celebrations that they have are in the middle of the week, and I travel like 2 hours one way or 4 hours total every day to and from work. So it's not conducive to me staying at any events that they have. So it works out perfectly in my favor, but I still just lay the law down in that regard as far as me just not celebrating the holidays at all. The other thing, was the story that I was telling previously about my Puerto Rican coworker who found out that they were playing this racist game on game night, this game called Puerto Rico, where basically you're a plantation owner selling slaves and plantations, and basically the premise of the game is to gain as many plantations as possible, and this is during the colonial era in the Caribbean. So basically you're talking about just when after Christopher Columbus, when Europeans just went crazy snatching up all the different islands in the Caribbean. And she was telling me today that she feels that our supervisor is treating her differently, and it's in a negative way, like she's getting just negative vibes from her in regards to just a couple of meetings that we had, and situations where she had to have conversations with her, and she just felt that the conversations were kind of curt and emotionless. And one of my other coworkers suggested that he actually just addressed that in the conversation, because she feels ever since she brought up this white male who facilitated this game night, and from what I understand, he's the one who brought the game in. It seems like her attitude has changed, and what they've also done is they've formed like Voltron on her in a way in which they're trying to protect this white male by saying, oh, he wasn't aware of the connotations of the game and this and all kinds of nonsense, when multiple people in the job were upset and complained about it, but nothing was done. And she was the one who took it the furthest, simply because she is Puerto Rican, and she felt highly offended by the game. And the human resources female representative, another white female terrorist, did the same thing, and she has the emails to prove it as well, as far as trying to downplay his knowledge of what it was and give him the benefit of the doubt, when she actually attempted to speak to him outside of contacting HR on at least 2 occasions, and it was after the 3rd time that he actually made an attempt to rectify the situation at all. And what I told her, because she's planning to have a meeting with her in the next few days, and I actually told her about the USB recorder, and I said, what I think you should do is record every conversation that you have with our supervisor. And she's been taking notes of the different events, so I just told her make sure she emails those things to her house, and that whenever she has this meeting, that she's actually purchasing it today. Actually, she purchased it today. And I said, record not just this meeting, but anytime you have a meeting with her, especially when you're either in private with her, and even when we have the meetings where we're in a group setting, because it was in one of the group setting meetings where she felt that she kind of got, a negative vibe when she asked a question about something related to work. So I said, record everything, and that way you have a means of protecting yourself in regards to what's taking place, as far as how you feel you're being treated in that scenario. And the other thing was, maybe about a week and a half ago, I had a meeting with her. And in the meeting, it's like a one-on-one meeting where before you go into the meeting, you have to write down like what you think your strengths are and what you think you need to improve. And then you have other people that you choose actually do the same. So in other words, you're having coworkers assess, what type of worker you are based on your experiences with them and their experiences with you, and then you self-assess at the same time. So I did the self-assessment, and I had 3 other people who I asked to facilitate basically writing up this insight into my work history there. And it was incredibly positive, and she was telling me these things. And this is the same supervisor who the other black male came to me about as well, and told me that after he thwarted her sexual advances, she's been trying to get rid of him for at least the last 6 months, from what he was telling me. And my coworker, who I was just speaking about, is also aware of the situation with him. So come to find out, I'm not. He actually told me directly, personally, but other people know about it. So I don't know if other people bore witness to some of the stuff that was happening, or if he might have talked to someone else, talked to her as well. But she was aware of that situation. And in the meetings, like I said, I think it was last week in Workplace Racism, she was, very complimentary and stuff. And I just felt it was really, I think it was, in my mind, it was more like rhetorical ethics. I don't trust anything she says. She said that the people who actually gave the write-ups to her had nothing but really incredibly positive things to say. She had nothing but incredibly positive things to say about me as well. But when I juxtapose that with the situations that are taking place with the person that sits next to me, and then the black male who is dealing with the sexual harassment now turned to get you fired terrorism, essentially I don't trust anything that she does or says. So I'm keeping, as I'm working on transitioning to another situation, I'm keeping my eyes open for things with her as well. And I will keep recording our meetings just to make sure that I have a means of protecting myself if something hits the fan with her as well. So those are my workplace racism incidences, and I'd like to thank you, and I'll meet my line.
Wow, man. Document. That is one of the easier methods we can employ to kind of protect ourselves, as Raj just said. Document things, whether that's taking notes, recorder, whatever means you employ, or having several means for documenting things that are happening on the job. Really important. That said, I did want to say also, for not just for the female caller who is having the situation, the other white males, and it possibly being a dangerous environment. I know Roz talked before about having a mirror at your work area so that you can kind of see things that are happening behind you. It certainly might be a good idea for her and for other folks that are listening. Just if you are in an environment where things are happening behind you. I think we've had people call in before even saying that a white person has bumped them, hit them in the head, or done something coming by, or that sort of thing, walking behind them. So just, again, putting that out there, folks want to have an extra means for just kind of having some surveillance and being able to see what's happening behind you in the office area. We had a person that wrote in a commentary. This individual says, I am a 41-year-old black male who works in a Mediterranean restaurant part-time in Washington, D.C. I work in the kitchen, which is run by a white chef from North Carolina. This man is very open about how he is on child support, has fought for this country while in the military, and how he doesn't have white privilege. He often talks about how blacks complain too much and need to go to work like everyone else. The whole kitchen is comprised of an all non-white black people. It's infuriating to listen to him and discouraging to see none of the black people say anything when he brings up wild topics. One of the most recent was when he said Trayvon, talking about Trayvon Martin, deserved what he got. Are you kidding me? I have a 6-year-old black son. I spoke up to one of the black cooks and told him that I thought the chef was a racist, and they were more or less like, well, that's how chef is, more or less. We just have to take it on the chin. The white man is in power. I honestly don't know how long I can keep this job. His new antic is to tell us ghetto word of the day. His latest word was bishop. My girl fell down and I had to pick the bishop bitch up. I know, hilarious, right? The chef often talks about the Latina woman he dates and about how his half-black son is a great basketball player in his high school in North Carolina. He often speaks on what he is able to do sexually with these non-white women, how he is able to urinate on them, and how much they love it. The thing is, no black person in the kitchen says anything because he is the master chef. Emphasis on the word master. Please tell me, what should I do? I need this job, but enough is enough. Wowee. With regards to the comments that he's making, those are the type of thing I would try to write down as many as possible. That's one of those, I think one of the more recent cases that I saw, I think it was a young black male. He was working in like an auto shop or something. And he had like 160 recordings of them making racist jokes and racist comments about black people and saying black people are late. He just piled up like 160 of these to go to court. I would say try to pile up as many of them as you can. I contend, and I could be in error, I contend understanding racism, understanding that this is not a surprise. Maybe it is a little bit unusual to have a white person be that open and explicit in their dedication to racism, but a racist white person should not be a surprise. Thank you for letting me know all this, so I'll know to make sure that we never eat at this restaurant, never serve any food in this restaurant. If this is a part-time gig, looking at the timetable for how long am I going to be here? If this is a part-time gig, this is not your main source of income. What's my timetable for how long do I want to be here? Do I envision myself being here for, years, months? What's my timetable for being here? If it's a short timetable, I would try to pile up as many racist, blatantly racist comments as possible, whether you have an MP3 or audio recorder, whether you're taking notes. Get as many of these comments recorded as possible, and then if you decide you want to pursue something with it, great. If not, that's fine too. In terms of expecting other black people to speak up, I try to reiterate this as often as possible. I think we really set ourselves up for a lot of frustration and disappointment, expecting other black people to respond in some kind of way that we deem would be adequate to racism. I think the only person that you can count on to respond to racism is you. I think that's the best way to go into any situation. And, if it's another black person, I don't know if it's these black people, if it's their full-time job, part-time job, I don't know what their situation is, but I would just assume, I wouldn't care who it is, even President Obama, that they are never going to say anything, that they're victims of racism and they're just trying to keep, their little job so they can make their few little nickels and take care of their family as best they can. That would be my assumption. As victims of racism, they got VGQ, they're guaranteed to do that. I would work diligently, even though I understand the logic, I would work diligently to minimize my frustration at them for not responding. And just focus on whether or not you want to respond. Because they could be thinking the same thing about you, right? About, he's been saying these things and you didn't say anything. He had his ghetto word of the day and you didn't say anything. So I would really just try and focus on what's my response going to be? Do I want to say something? And what can I say that will not create new problems for me? That's always, I think, something that we should have in the forefront of my mind. If it's just to get him to stop saying these things, okay, what can I say that will get him to stop making these sort of comments? I'm of the opinion, again, and particularly since this is part-time, again, I don't know how long you're going to be on this job, I would just try to get as many recordings or documents of these type of statements as possible, and then you can decide how you want to use that information moving forward. Other folks, did you all have comments, or how would you deal with that situation, the one that I just read?
I think when you said that his other coworker said that this is how he speaks, this is how master speaks, how they are. He understands racism. That person who said that understood, and he understood in a way in which, to me, the result of having nobody else chime in or come to back up what he was trying to do to instate justice in some form or fashion, which would and should be expected. And I think the information that you provided is perfect. I think that he is literally the best example of where recording your entire shift is appropriate. I think if he can get his hands on that USB recorder on Amazon, they have it for about $11.99. And it records up to 13 hours. So I don't know. He is part time, so hopefully he should have more than enough time to record his entire shift. And like you said, just rack them up, accumulate as much as possible. And then if he does transition and he wants to move forward with a lawsuit or something of that nature, he has everything in that person's own words. There's nothing where, even if it was written, that should be fine too. But the idea of having him recorded, they can actually hear the venom with which he speaks and the racism that he is displaying in the most intimate fashion. So it'll make him look like the guilty, racist son of a gun that he really is. And with that, I'll mute my line. Thank you.
I would write a Yelp review as well to encourage black people to not eat at this establishment. There's a lot of black people in the D.C. area, so I don't know if they're into Mediterranean out there, but just the volume of black people, it wouldn't surprise me if some of them are go to that establishment. I would encourage them not to eat there. I think that would be a move of black self-respect too. Other folks have a response to the scenario I just read?
May I be heard?
Yes, ma'am.
Just background, I did work 23 years as a carpenter, so I do know about in those physical environments where they're a little bit less codified, they can to get a little bit more comfortable with the things that they let slip. And my approach may not work for everybody because my approach is kind of in your face. They say it, and they always say it as a joke, ha ha ha, and then if you act offended, you're the overly sensitive black person who takes offense to everything and can't take a joke. I would just turn around and tell a redneck joke. So in the end, they stopped telling me black jokes because my jokes were better. Because then when they look offended, I say, what? It's just a joke. The same thing they said to me when I looked offended when they told their joke. So, and now that I've left carpentry and now I'm on a corporate plantation, it really is a corporate sweatshop. There's 700 employees, 85% are black. They don't keep anything clean. So it's a lot different environment because you're supposed to keep up the PC facade, you know, the PC office. Oh, we have our fun club and we do all these little things. But the undertone is of the 15% of white people that are there, 85% of them are in the corporate hallway where you have to whisper or they're supervisors. So it really is run like a plantation. And my approach is straightforward truth. Nothing gets the white people out of your face more than the truth. They do not like the truth. And so, you know, I do still get a few that'll straggle up and try to see if I'm going to tell them the truth. Most of the higher-ups just avoid me. I'm very good at my job. I come in, I do my job, I go home. I think they get a sick sense of satisfaction at seeing us play this role and succumb to the mannerisms that they enforce upon us in order to keep our job. And so, like the lady said last night on the show, Miss Manswell, you know, you have to pick your activism as much as your wallet can handle. And as a single woman with no kids, I will eat saltine crackers before I will entertain a cracker. And that's how I feel. I'm you by line.
That's funny. Other folks have commentary, suggestions for how they would respond to the situation with the racist master chef, emphasis on master. Other folks have suggestions? Little echo there, little echo. Other folks have suggestions? I reckon not. Folks that we have not heard from, if you wanted to share about your own situation, if you had questions about anything that we've shared thus far, feel free.
Hello?
Greetings.
Can I be heard?
Yes, ma'am.
Oh, my gosh. Hi, Gus. I'm a first-time caller. I could be called Soul Scribe. I live in Inglewood, California. And I work for a government county facility. I wanted to discuss the issue that I'm having at work. I work in a semi-professional setting. Some people have degrees, others just work their way to the top through their efforts. Well, let me just describe me a little bit. I'm a dark-skinned woman who's kind of voluptuous, and I get rude comments relating to my body parts and stuff, and I ignore it, but they seem to make that an issue. The women make that an issue a lot, and this is going to be related to the incident that had happened. So 2 weeks ago, it was a young lady who's about, a young black woman who's about 29, 30. She has a degree, I don't. She kept going past my cubicle, making suggestive comments, derogatory suggestive comments. And I mentioned it to some of my coworkers who was aware of it because she talked about me indirectly. So I've been told. So it started to bother me. That's not the first time it happened before, but it started to be irritating. So I went to her supervisor and I asked him if he can tell her to please stop making those noise or those comments when she walked past my cubicle. He told me that he would take care of it. I thought everything was great. I went back to my job. About 30 minutes after I told him, oh my God, the young lady appeared in my cubicle, hollering and screaming, demanding that I talk to her. I told her that I cannot talk to you because I'm working. She said, well, when's your break? And I said, whenever it is, but I'm not going to use it to talk to you. She kept insisting. I kept stating that I'm trying to work and I'm not going to talk to you. So she just kept demanding. So I dropped the F-bomb. I just told her to get the F away from my cubicle. I didn't know what else to do. And at that moment, this young woman lunged at me like she wanted to hit me. One of my coworkers had to physically remove her from my cubicle area. I just thought that was so bizarre. And usually you would go straight to administration when these type of incidents occur, but because my administrators, they were at a meeting, and my supervisor wasn't available, and it was time to go home. So I just went home, and I didn't come back. And I went to the doctor, and I got an excuse because I'm a little frazzled from that incident. I'm 48 years old, so my nerves were still kind of rattled by the whole incident. Being addressed like that, I just never have been in my whole entire life. I've been working for this company for 25 years, and I've never had that happen. So I haven't been able to write a statement due to my nerves. My nerves is really bad now. And I am supposed to return back to work on Monday. I'm asking, because my administrator wants me to go to their office to discuss the situation. How can I tell my side of the incident without being emotional?
Wow, that is tough. I can sense just in you recounting it how unpleasant this whole situation has been. You certainly have my sympathies. Was this a white woman, the one that was coming by your desk and making, I guess, whatever sounds, inappropriate sounds or whatever she was making? Was this a white woman or a non-white female?
Non-white woman.
Non-white female.
A young black, educated woman.
Okay. So it was a young black female where you ended up having this conflict with. And I guess after you told your supervisor, can you say something to her about making these sounds or what have you? And I don't know if sounds like maybe he did say something and then she came back and got upset about that. in your area and saying, I guess you're going to talk to me or whatever. She's yelling at you.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's exactly what happened.
Okay. Wow. Conflict between non-white people. Unfortunately, we've had that on the job, and I've stated consistently that is a major task of counter-racism, even if you're not using that language, minimizing conflict between other non-white people. I will say, just I guess to preface, I'll try and have a suggestion or two or a thought on what to do at this point and where you are, but I do recommend if it's another non-white person, particularly if it's two black people or a group where everybody is classified as black, to try to resolve the situation with them first if you can, without having to bring a supervisor in it, like whatever it is. If you can talk to the person courteously and just whatever you can do, and even letting them know, like, hey, I could or we could go and talk to whoever the supervisor is. We could bring white people into it, or if you have a non-white supervisor, but I was hoping we could just kind of squash this and move forward, make our money and get through the day as best we can. I'm a big advocate of that if it's another black person, but be that as it may, where we are in this point in the story, I think, it sounds like just going with the truth of the matter. I would just, itemize that you were at your desk area and the person came by and exactly what they were saying. If they were cursing at you or whatever they were saying, they were yelling at you and being hostile. You didn't feel safe. You asked them, to exit, and they refused to do so. And they just continued threatening you or whatever, specifically they were saying until, you got to the point where you were so frustrated because you had asked them repeatedly to leave and, said whatever you said, get the F away from my station or whatever. And and then she lunged at you. I would definitely make sure to include that there was you felt a legitimate threat of physical violence that could have occurred as a result of all this. I would just itemize the truth. It sounds like other people might have witnessed this, so there might be people who can corroborate what happened in the incident. I would just write it out truthfully. You said, I guess, being concerned about it not being emotional. It sounds like, you handled things as best you could. If this had been going on for a while, I don't know, whatever. What sound, I guess, was she making before that prompted?
When she was past my cubicle, she would just make some really juvenile sounds like, ugh, or look at her, or, just little kindergarten stuff. That was just so juvenile. And at first I thought, like, okay, I'll brush it off. But it became consistent. And she doesn't work in our area. She works on the other side. So I've never noticed she was coming over until she made a noise. I've never, witnessed her, going to the other cubicles to talk to her friends until she made a noise. So I was contemplating approaching her and asking her before I told her boss. But she made some really some comments that made me think that she wasn't approachable. She said, I remember we were in the restaurant one time and I spoke. I got the total cricket silent treatment. So I never, approached her like that again. And then I, witnessed her saying, I observed her saying, I don't talk to people who are beneath me. So,
do you have any reason to suspect that she has some sort of animosity or has a problem with you because of your melanin? Like I think you mentioned that you're melanated, curvy, black female. Do you think that's related to some of this hostility?
I do, because I heard from word of mouth that she was playing the victim because I am C.O.W.S. She was saying that, because she's petite, nicely shaped young woman. She said, well, how could I be taunting her? She's bigger than me. In those words, I guess she's trying to validate whatever. But I don't want to stop this young woman from promoting because she's waiting to get promoted to another area. She was just waiting to get cleared. And what's weighing in my heart is, because she's young and she's educated, she has the opportunity to move on. But I feel that, and I may be contradicting myself, but I am a little nervous, that if I do just go along with this can really hurt her. And she has a child, and she's a single parent. So that's something, I don't know if I should minimize the truth, just so, she can just go further on. I want to see her succeed. I don't have any animosity towards her, and I've had this situation happen to me before. About a year and a half ago, there were a group of women who would sit in cubicles and just discuss, people, private businesses such as my own. I did make a complaint, and one of the administrators told me not to worry about it. The women continued to harass me and another an older woman who was like around 50. And the 50-year-old woman wanted to fight the women, and then it became really horrible. So they wind up, the results of that was that they transferred everybody out. So they dispersed those group of women. But now that I just got promoted, now I'm faced with the same situation with another young woman who was aware of the incident that happened in the past. So, and with that situation, like I said, I did make a complaint. I did go to the person and asked them personally to stop. She thought it was a joke, and she continued on, and I just ignored it, because I didn't have any support.
That's going to be a consistent aspect of how white supremacy is manifest for us in the workplace. So I said really everywhere in terms of minimizing conflict with other black people, other non-white people. That's got to be a major component of how we function with counter-racism. And this happens on the job so frequently just because of the contamination of white supremacy, where conflict can be started with another non-white person for really no reason at all, where you all didn't have a bad interaction. It's not like you all were working together and something went bad just because of the system of white supremacy. Just see another black person, see somebody else with melanin. Oh, I don't like that person because how they looked or whatever. I mean, it's pitiful, but it happens so frequently. I was going to ask if we have any of our black female callers, because I know this issue came up about a week or so ago. One of our black female callers asked for suggestions where she was having harassment, unprovoked harassment from other black females on the job, and she was asking for tips on how to deal with that. Any of our black female callers have any suggestions for how you would deal with this? Particularly, I think, because you added on kind of towards the end that you don't want to see her career upended, and you would like to get through this where there can be as little damage as possible and just have it resolved so you don't have to keep dealing with this. Any of our female callers, do you have any suggestions for how you would deal with this moving forward?
Can I be heard?
Yes, ma'am.
This is Jay from Ohio. I know when I had my issue, and I actually had a very similar issue, except it wasn't a black person, it was the white girl. But I know that what I actually ended up doing, and it was actually provoked by a few black males who actually, started talking about my body, and I'm definitely, similar shape to the other caller, except I'm younger. But I actually just we would all actually eat together, hang out together, and so I actually just stopped being around them completely, and I did end up actually just making up excuses why not to go around them. I know that doesn't necessarily work for the caller from Inglewood, because the lady is actually coming over to her area, and it's definitely unprovoked. But as far as just with her retelling her story, I know what has helped me out in the past is just writing it down, because I'm also very timid. So at least if you can write it down, you don't necessarily have to read it word for word, but at least you can remember what you're saying, the point that you want to get across. And I definitely understand what you mean, because as far as with the black males, I considered them my friends, and so I didn't necessarily want to go to HR, which was something that I definitely could have done, especially since it would be male to female type of situation. So I can definitely understand that. All what worked for me was just basically just removing myself from them and just cutting down communication as much as possible, but maybe just definitely writing down, what happened, and if you did want to proceed with, telling your story to the administration or what have you, at least you would have that information, and maybe it might help you.
I appreciate that.
You're welcome.
I think with the writing down, I know Mr. Fuller, he said previously, if you're going to write out an incident, and I think in this situation it would be good to write it out maybe ahead of time, just for you yourself to get all the details down and the best words that you want to use to describe the situation. If you write down like your official statement to take in to work, I would do bullet points or numbers as opposed to like a massive story where you have several paragraphs. I think if you just do like bullet points or numbers, it forces you to like just streamline it and just these are this is how it happened. So point 1, she comes over and is saying whatever. Point 2, I ask her to leave. Just boom, 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 so you can go right through it really quick. This is what happened and get right to the specifics and the details. That's just a suggestion Mr. Fuller offered. We have any other black females who had suggestions on how they would respond to the situation? Any other black female callers who had thoughts, recommendations, how they would handle this situation? Okay. Any other folks, period? Even our male callers, any other folks, period?
Can I be heard?
Yes, sir.
Yes. I empathize with you. It's a really terrible situation, and big up to you for black self-respect in regards to not wanting to see her fail or fall into a situation where she might have trouble taking care of herself and her child since she's a single mother. I was thinking everything that Gus said I think is a great way to move forward. And what you can probably do maybe is at the end, you can probably say something like, well, even though I don't fully understand what led to this situation, I don't want her to lose her job. She was just about to, transfer someplace else, which would alleviate this whole situation.
Right.
Can we please move forward with that? I really, I have no animosity towards her. Like I said, I don't know why this happened. I didn't provoke the situation, but I don't want to see her get terminated for something like this when she can move on and continue to do things for herself to take care of her family. So I think that might be something you want to put towards the end as like maybe a final bullet point or one of the last bullet points that you use. And for the other female who spoke to you, when she talked about the fact that it was black males that facilitated this white female harassing her like she did, it really struck a chord with me because I've said this repeatedly. My wife's most viscerally hurtful experiences have come at the hands of other black people. And on many occasions, she has seen black people egg white people on in harassing her or other non-white people in harassing her in public spaces. And it is something that we really have to work on because, of course, we don't have power as it is. But when you have other black people who are setting up a scenario for a white terrorist to further terrorize you, it is one of the worst experiences ever. And it has, that situation in particular has made it extremely difficult for me to get my wife to understand certain concepts in regards to understanding that all white people are the most deadly creatures she could ever come across. And just us mistreating each other can create a scenario that can create life or death situations for our people. And we really have to start thinking ahead when we make these decisions. And think before you do, why don't I like this person? Like, what did that person do to me to make me have this visceral anger towards them? And then self-analyze, because it's really coming from yourself. If you look in the mirror, you're not liking what you see in the mirror, and that's causing you to mistreat someone else that looks like you. And it is the worst-case scenario when you're in a job, you're being terrorized already, you're a black person and a black female, so you're getting it worse. And then you have other black people facilitating, literally, terrorism. That's horrible, and we really have to end that collectively as a people, united independent, we have to start thinking about what we're doing to each other, because this is how they get away with what they get away with. And when we support these things, they feel even more empowered to continue to do these things to us. So please, let's work on that together, people. Thank you, and I'll mute my line.
I appreciate that. If I may add, I was just promoted in April, and I had a black male person training me, and he was a little, rude. I don't know anybody who would come to someone's cubicle and lift up their shirt and start rubbing their stomach. I don't think that's normal. So I went to my supervisor, and I told her that, I'm going through the change, I'm perspiring and, going through that situation, and because she just had someone that was female helping me. So that's just one of the ways that I'm trying to minimize conflict amongst us. I don't gossip. I talk about things that are beneficial. I don't have a lot of friends. It's 2 people that I actually hang out with. But I am trying my best to minimize conflict, and my intent with the young lady was to minimize the conflict. It was very irritating, and I wanted it to stop. That's all. I didn't want any type of nothing. I didn't want any problems. So, but I appreciate your advice. Your suggestion is well taken. Thank you, and I'll mute my line.
May I be heard?
Yes, ma'am.
I wasn't able to speak earlier when you were asking for the black females because I'm not really good at doing it with the computer, so I had to dial back in right quick. But because of the age, because you're 48, I know I'm 44, and I'm also tall, so I definitely relate to your pain, just being ostracized just for being taller than everybody, and always perceived as a threat being taller than everybody, even though, I'm probably one of the most feminine women outside of, when I'm working with tools. But from an elder perspective, looking at our history and seeing how broken our people are, as the brother was saying about writing down your bullet points to process your thoughts, you might consider even communicating with the young lady in writing. That way she doesn't feel the need to defend herself. She doesn't, it kind of helps to tame that negative energy that tends to spark between us when we're in groups. And just, express understanding, express your concern for her family that she's trying to raise, express your lack of animosity, and maybe if you guys could clear the air through writing before the meeting, it would just change the tone of the meeting so she at least doesn't come into the meeting with that defensive persona, which would just put on a show for the supervisors. So maybe even communicating with her in writing, because I know on my job, I think one of the reasons why I don't get as much flack from the women on the jobs, because I know my people are broken, and I do have empathy for them, so I don't lash out at them. I haven't had any altercations. And part of that is because I spend so much time telling them how beautiful they are to me. It's like as much hate as we put on each other, like, oh, look at her shoes. Look at that. I'm always going like, oh, I love your hair. That's a beautiful hair. Oh, look at that sweater. So they know that I don't have those jealousies. I'm not participating in those jealousies. And whatever we may feel personally about each other, you're a beautiful black woman. You're a beautiful, strong black man. And it helps to kind of, like, I'm surprised considering as much conflict, because I do see sometimes they'll sit with, the white supervisors, and I can feel, how you see the side eye, you're the topic of conversation, because I do create that type of energy with the supervisors, but I never get any of that back at me from my people. I get hugs, from the few that are receptive, but those who are not, if they don't want to talk to me, they just don't talk to me, but I compliment everybody. So that's one thing that might work, because we are a broken and pain and suffering people. I mute my line.
Grand. I was going to say, yes, ma'am. Just really quick, I was going to insert that. I think also should be motivation in terms of really making sure that we're working to minimize conflict on the workplace. I think it was shared earlier, because if whites have anything to do with it, they could just come in and say, well, you niggers can't get along. We're just going to hire a new batch of niggers who can behave themselves on the job, and just fire everybody or transfer everybody or, cut everybody's hours. They could totally do that. So that's just added motivation for, let's really try to do all that we can to minimize conflict. Right. And even in the incident that was shared this evening, where you didn't really do anything to provoke this conflict, but once you see it, like, that almost becomes irrelevant. Like, let's just try to do as much as we can within reason to minimize this, and definitely see if we can keep whites from having to get directly involved and making this situation way worse for all of us. So just keep that in mind too.
I was just going to say I do compliment. I think I'm a serial complimenter. I'm a woman. I admire other women's style and hair and dress. However, I just think I'm very intimidating just because of my statuesqueness, my voluptuousness. I think everything is in the right place. But I've just noticed it's made people uncomfortable. Like, how could you be, look like that and have that kind of shape? It's one of those kind of things. And I don't promote that. I want people to see, my manners, my personality. But for some reason, that's always a subject of conversations, some type of body part that I have. So, but I appreciate your advice. And I appreciate the advice of just trying to approach the young woman if she would allow me to. The young woman is she's not approachable.
Do it in writing. I really think that will work. I really think that will work if you write it in a blank card, like get a blank card and express your thoughts. And even if you could just find out where she sits and leave it on her cubicle so she finds it in the morning if you get there 15 minutes early. And that way she can process her thoughts alone, And I really think that might help you a lot more because a lot of times people lash out because they're in pain. Because it sounds like she's just, who knows what's going on in her life. Right. Because I definitely understand, because I'm 6 feet tall. I was called, my last name, I was called the bus all through school. So I definitely understand how it can be intimidating to people. Yeah. So I definitely understand your perspective.
Yeah, appreciate that.
Thank you, Fine. Nice talking to you, sis.
Likewise. Thank you so much. And I'll mute my line also. I appreciate it.
I thought of one more thing. When you do write in the card to her, or if you write her a letter, don't put anything that can be viewed as quote unquote anti-white or anything like that, because you might want to connect with her on being two black people working in a situation that's already tough to be in the first place. So you just want to word it carefully so that in case she shows it to someone else or something, they don't get the wrong impression and then start scrutinizing you in a way that they wouldn't have. So you just want to really be careful with the verbiage and the wordplay, okay?
Okay. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Thank you, too. And I wish you all the best. I truly, truly empathize with both of you. Thank you. All of you, actually. Thank you so much.
Appreciate that. I'll mute my line. Thank you.
Context of White Supremacy. Anybody that we have not heard from? Actually, I had one other person that wrote in. This person wrote in. All right. It's Jack, student from Atlanta. It's been a couple of weeks since I last wrote in. I wanted to tell a recurring incident that has been happening in my workplace. Just a short reminder, I work in the health department at a community facility, which is about 95% white, including employees, guests, etc. I always hear Neely Fuller say that you suspect only those whites who are able to be racist. Anyhow, after my shift, I often go to the gym, which is on the top floor above where I work. There's this mildly mentally retarded white man who works at the front desk who checks you in. As employees, we aren't mandated to carry our card to enter facilities because most people recognize each other. I enter into the facility, and on a number of occasions, this guy stops me and asks me for my card. Every time I reply, I work downstairs, and he says, "Oh, okay, that's right." This has happened at least 5 times in the last year since I've been there, and I use the gym regularly, maybe 3 times a week, and he'll randomly ask me for my card. I dismissed it because I thought maybe it was due to his condition, but then this one particular day, I enter into the gym and there's 2 other white employees with him at the desk. I entered and they both spoke and I said hello, and then the mildly retarded guy says, "Hey, what's up, shawty?" I gave him a stare as he stands there grinning. The next time something of this nature happened was once again in the gym. I always work out and with headphones in my ear for music, of course. The same guy walks up behind me and says, "Homeboy, hey, homeboy." I heard him as clear as day, but I kept walking as if I didn't hear him because my music was too loud. I quoted Neely Fuller earlier because in my mind, I somehow disqualified this man of being racist because he was mentally challenged. I guess I had concluded that he was unable to practice racism. I have now concluded that even the disabled ones, handicapped, retarded, autistic, etc., should be suspected just as much as the healthier ones. As a matter of fact, just my observation with working with them in close proximity, they are some of the most uncodified racists. End of transmission. Very important, in my opinion. People always looking for outs to find a white person who is not a racist, and all of those doors should be shut. We should be moving on from that in 2016, in my opinion. If other folks have commentary, workplace racism. If we have not heard from you, you should certainly go ahead and speak up. Workplace racism. Folks have comments?
Gus, can I be heard? I say this all the time. If they're mentally ill, elderly, retarded, it doesn't matter. They're all racist. I had the same experience. I don't believe that. I mean, that's one specific spot where I have to disagree with Neely Fuller. There are no white people that cannot be racist. And it's interesting to hear his experiences because it mirrors mine. I don't care if they're mentally ill. They're still racist. And like he said, I think any form of mental illness makes them completely uncodified compared to other races. They just seem to blur stuff out, just like a 5-year-old will just, say something that sounds crass to someone else, but they're just actually questioning. That's how I find mentally ill white people practice racism. So I agree completely. And I wish him the best as well, because that's not fun. Thank you.
I'm sorry, may I be heard? I just had a quick comment about that last story.
Yes, ma'am.
I also definitely agree with Roz, and also thank you, Roz, for the suggestion about the pineapple juice. It actually has helped. So I actually worked in a health facility, and the craziest thing was that there was this it was a middle-aged white woman, and she was also had some type of mental retardation, and she knew to call black people, and excuse my language, but niggers, and like if there was actually some homosexual black men who worked there, and she would call them bitch-ass niggers. So it was like she could even tell the difference between, I guess, a regular quote-unquote Negra or Negro and a feminine Negro. So I definitely don't put it past them either. Thank you. I'll mute myself.
Right on. Other folks, anybody that we have not heard from, if you have commentary, feel free.
Can I be heard?
Yes, sir.
Greetings, Gus, listeners, and the rest of the callers. Man, I lost all codification this evening. Sociology class again. Suspected racist is the professor. Chapter 6 is race. So we talking about it, and so throughout the discussion, I keep writing down codification because I'm feeling like I'm gonna lose it. Okay, so as we going through the discussion, I'm like one of the only ones that's participating. Okay, so I noticed the white people looking at me a little funny. maybe about 5 of them in class. We had one black male in particular that's sitting in the back with this particular white girl that's in the class. And I say particular because I would say that she hangs out with a lot of black people from the way she dressed, and she kind of shapely. So she's just an interesting dynamic in the class because she be, all over the black males. Like last week, and I'll start with this. Last week, she had on some pretty revealing shorts. And, like all class, I feel her trying to get me to acknowledge her. All right. And I wouldn't even look at her at all. So class is, it's like the middle of the class. We got the exam that day. I left my notes at home. So I asked her, could I borrow her notebook to use her notes, to study right quick. And then she like, well, me and this other black female about to go out in the hallway and study. You just want to come with us? I'm like, all right. So we go in the hallway. She's sitting down next to me. I'm in the chair. So I noticed a white male coming up the hallway. And, man, he all over me, man, with his vibe. So I meet his eye contact, and then, I shake his hand. Like, hey, how you doing? Because he extended his hand to reach out to mine. And I told him, I said, man, I'm not dating her. Just popped out. And, the white female and the black female that's sitting down there about 18 years old. So they both like real rigid now. And then the white guy got a little uncomfortable too. And, I'm just sitting there looking at him, and so he started asking me about the class that I'm in and, whatever. So fast forward to this week, class is about race. So the black male that's sitting in the back with the white female is talking about people of Indian descent occupying the convenience stores and the gas stations and, things of that nature. So I asked him a question. I said, have you seen any white people, or how many white people have you seen occupying convenience stores and or gas stations in black neighborhoods? And he didn't answer the question, and nobody answered the question. This other white female speaks up, and her face red, and her tone is like really nasty, and she says, have you been to all the stores to check out, the people that's in there? I said, man, I don't even like your tone right now. And then I turned around, and she said, we don't like your tone. Now, I find that very interesting, thinking back on the conversation, man, because most of the majority of the class is black, man. So when you talking about we, who are you talking about? Now, it's a older white female that's sitting next to her. Now, before this happened, she talked about how she grew up with money and, she didn't take her dad's beliefs, so she didn't get the gold shoes, as the professor referred to it. Talking about basically he didn't pay for her to go to a good school because she didn't take on the racist beliefs, and I grew up in, Cedarburg, and now I stay in River West. Now that's where I live, so she's like, and, I don't know how to describe River West. Now the class is quiet. You can hear, man, a mosquito peeing on cotton. And I just say diverse, like real sarcastically. Yeah, that's it, So fast forward back to the younger white female. we don't like your tone. All right, so now class over with. Man, I'm hot, man, because I didn't like the way that white girl was talking to me. So I'm standing there and I asked her, I'm like, you got a problem with me? And why are you trying to pick a fight? I said, man, I ain't nobody trying to pick a fight with you. I'm not speaking on, any opinions, that I have. I said, man, when I speak in class, I'm speaking from a factual basis, man, because everybody really started looking at me funny. And this is the part I left this part out. Sorry. Everybody started looking at me funny when I told the older white female, I'm like, man, what you're describing is that if white people are not racist, they're going to be held accountable by other white people. Class real quiet, and I'm turning around addressing the whole class because I sit right in the front, so I can really address the professor. So I'm turned around and I'm looking at the whole classroom, and then somebody said, like, what? And I said it again, and the professor agreed, and then the older white female agreed and said that, yeah, my family is like a club, so it was a very interesting dynamic in the classroom. So fast forward and back to when class is over, I end up telling the white girl to stay in her lane, referring to the conversation. You really a younger white female who really don't know what she was talking about and was offended, man, because truth was being spoken and she didn't like it. Like, who is this nigga in here, speaking his mind and telling us about ourselves? So I end up leaving, and I find this interesting too. When I leave, the professor called me back, and I think he called me Richard again, but very hyper-sexual white male, like we have in the conversation about, something about any inferiority and superiority. So he got a salad on the board, and somehow he throws in tossing salad, so I'm leaving, but when I'm leaving, I'm not sure if he called me Richard again, but in class, he said it to me once and I let it go because I really wasn't sure if he was talking to me. But when I was turned around addressing the class, he called me Richard again. Now, I know he know my name because he called me my name all the time, and I'm the most outspoken person in the classroom, and I got dreadlocks, so you don't forget a person like that. And I'm 6 feet tall, so I think that was him calling me a dick, for being so frank in the classroom. And man, I just wanted to get that off my chest. Gus, thank you for letting me share. I'll mute my line.
Thank you for sharing. Riled up the white folks in the good college class down in Wisconsin. Terrible. The other folks who dialed in that we have not heard from. See, we had people that dialed in more recently. Lady in New York and other folks. Did y'all have comments you were going to add as well?
Have you heard?
You're a little low.
Is that better?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Hello, everyone on the line. Just wanted to make a comment about I had a few comments. One was about the tactical pen. They do have instructions on proper usage on YouTube of how to use the tactical pen. I think I might invest in that. My next comment is, actually I have a question. I think last week, it may have been on the Saturday program, someone, it was on the workplace racism. So someone mentioned, and I'm not remembering who, a type of like disability insurance or something so that he can miss days if he had something medical going on. So I'd like to know the name of that because I wasn't able to catch it when I listened.
Sure, it was me. It was FMLA. It's called Family Medical Leave Act. F as in Frank, M as in Mary, L as in Larry, A as in Apple. And essentially it's a federal regulation that companies have to offer that to people, and it comes in multiple forms. One is short-term leave, where, like, let's say if you're having surgery and you'll have to be out of work for, let's say, 6 months, they'll give you that 6 months and strictly that 6 months, and once the 6 months is over, you have to go back to work. Then they have, like, long-term leave if you're in a situation where you might be out of work for a year or longer, and then they have something called intermittent leave, which that's what I have because of a medical condition I have. It flares up semi-regularly, so essentially it just gives me that ability to take time off as I need it, and you can break it up either into hours. So if you don't want to take a whole day off, you can take off, maybe 2 hours out of the day or half a day, however you want to break it up. Or if you want to take off a full day, you can do that. And depending on the condition you have, like my doctor wrote it in that I can take up to 3 consecutive days in a row. So if I wanted to, I can just call out for like basically more than half the week if I felt like it. But it's not something that I don't abuse. It's something I just either use if there is an actual medical situation, or in the most recent case, I was looking for a job and I had to go for 2 interviews, and I just needed to take that time off. It wasn't time that I could schedule ahead as vacation. But it's called FMLA, and you should actually have that information. You should probably look into your company's their manual, their work manual, where they have all the rules and regulations for how the company is run. They should have all that information indicated there in regards to FMLA under the section that's about leave. Like they usually have it somewhere after vacation and holiday time and stuff. They'll have that sort of information indicated there. Most jobs that I've worked at, that's where it's been located, but it might be different for your company. Thank you.
Thank you.
Oh, you're welcome. Oh, and I was going to tell you, the author of the book that I was talking about is called Spy Secrets That Can Save Your Life, and his name is, I believe it's Jason Hansen, and it was his book that taught me about the tactical pen, and he also has videos on YouTube as well as far as how to use it. And once you get the hang of it, trust me, it'll be a lifesaver, especially for women or, for anybody, period. But I would just say especially for women, simply because our women are the most victimized women on the planet. So I hope a lot of our sisters take advantage of that to protect themselves, because it's something you can take anywhere. So it's not like you'll be stopped by the police for it. You can take it into a courtroom. It doesn't matter. It's just a regular pen, but it's also something you can use in an emergency to break glass if you're trapped in a car after an accident, or in a building, let's say, and you need to break glass to escape. It's something you can use for that as well. But for self-defense, it's something that's awesome. And like I said, all these different agents, they carry it all the time, especially in scenarios where they cannot carry a gun, where a gun is not an appropriate weapon to have in that situation. Thank you, and I'll mute my line.
Thank you. I had a comment. I've been interviewing heavily this week and last week. Last week was interesting because I went for an interview and I got the vibe that the nurse expected me to be a white woman, and that she was not shocked but disappointed that I was not. My name is pretty bland. Many white women I've met, we have the same name. As soon as she saw me, she just was not interested in me. She took me into her office. I had emailed back and forth over 4 times about my resume to this woman. I have it in Google Drive where I can share it. I sent it to her as a PDF. I sent it to her in different ways, and she just kept saying she could not open it. First, I thought it was me because another job sent the same message that they just couldn't open it. And I emailed it to them again, and then they were able to open it in a different format. So our final email, she set up an interview anyway and just told me to bring it with me or I could fax it. And then she just sent it and said, okay, just bring it with you. I got there and sat in her office, tried to show her my credentials, my license to be a nurse, my CPR is up to date, and here's this resume and cover letter. She refused to take it at all. And I was like, that is so weird. You can at least pretend. I felt like I was on a mock interview, and I thought people were going to come out with cameras because it was the weirdest interview I have ever went on. She talked and rambled for about 30 minutes, and we played pretend interview. At the end, again, I tried to give her my resumes, and she said, oh, no, you can close your agenda, which I didn't even have an agenda. It's like a portfolio binder, but that's what she said. Of course, no talk about salary, no talk about the actual days that she's looking for the nurse to work. I did get her to explain the shifts, which were 12-hour shifts, 312s, and she told me a little bit about the job, but a lot of it was about her and what she did. So it was clearly this white woman was not interested. I am not the person she thought she was going to meet. I know it wasn't my style of dress. I don't know if it was my hair. A lot of white women either act like they really love my hair or they're really offended by my natural hair. I don't as much so get the vibe that it was my hair over that she really thought that she was going to be meeting with a white woman. The other interviews I had, they actually asked me real questions and took my resumes, and those were black females who interviewed me. But this one particular time with this white woman, it was just like an act or something. I don't know if she already had someone to fulfill the position. I don't know. But it was just strange that she wouldn't even look to see if I was an actual nurse who could perform this job with a license or certificate. She didn't even want to see that. So the female caller was making a statement about another woman commenting on her body. I never experienced that with, like, making me uncomfortable with black females. I have in the workplace with white women. They don't like if you are shapely. They don't like if you are heavy up top. They, I guess, get kind of jealous. I'm not really sure. When I had an issue like that, my son was a very small, like he was a baby. And so, the weight started falling off. And I didn't really like to eat a lot at their parties. And this office job, before I transitioned to nursing, was always some party, always something with food. And how it stopped with me, it was uncodified and unintentional. White women would always say something about my body, or if I didn't want to eat what was there. Like if I brung lunch in, I didn't know that they were going to have this event. And I had headphones on, and they thought I didn't hear them at this time talking about them. And a black gentleman made a comment because, almost in my defense, and I said a few cursed, and everyone burst out laughing because I, in a nutshell, said I don't give an F, really give an F. But I thought I was talking under my breath, and it came out loud enough to where everyone can hear it. After that day, they made their comments, but it wasn't like when I was in the same room, or it wasn't as blatant. But the white women get very jealous. So, but I've never had that issue with a lot of conflict with black females at the job. So I don't know how that could kind of be handled. And that was my comments. I'll mute my line.
I just heard that today. I was listening to different audio clips. I was trying to make a selection for what I was going to use to start the program with today. And I obviously went with the one, Melody Hobson. But there was a different segment from some years ago where it was the exact same thing. And I mean, it's cliche, but it was a black female, and she was saying that she, I guess she had done all the paperwork online. And so then she actually went in for the interview, and she said it was just like immediate, like surprise, like, oh man, I thought it's a Negra. Like, man, I thought it was going to be a white woman, and oh well, I guess you're here. I guess we'll go through the interview. Okay, so your name, like they could just tell immediately, like, I'm not going to get this job, and the whole interview changed. Like, it wasn't very serious. There was no real enthusiasm for me as an employee. I think that's a very common thing nowadays for a lot. It probably has been for a long time for a number of non-white people. The person that dialed in 4130, you should be with us as well. 4130. The caller.
May I be heard?
I was just checking. The caller, last four digits, 4130. Did you have commentary? Okay, maybe they are muted. The caller.
May I be heard?
The caller at 8950. 8950. Did you have commentary?
Yeah. I just had two things. One is update, and one is workplace racism from the past. I remember my first job. My first job when I was 15 years old. I was a bagger at a grocery store, and this old white lady, I just got done bagging the groceries, and she had forgot her purse at the register. So after the next customer came up, I noticed it, and so I went to go chase down this old white lady, and like when I brought it to her, she turned around and gave me this face. She gave me a facial expression as if she had smelled some foul odor, and she had said, "You didn't steal anything, did you?" And I just remember that one from the past. And my update is my workplace racism at my current job. I'll give a quick summary of it. I was really uncodified and really emotional. I spoke about race with anyone who would talk, and I got known as the Negro who would talk about race. And my manager was practicing racism against me. She'll give me too much work and too little time. And when I tried to galvanize other white and non-white coworkers to try to solve the problem, she made it seem like I was trying to start a mini revolt or something, and she totally purposefully reclassified what I was trying to do and to make it something that it wasn't. And so an update. I also remember I mentioned that my store manager, when I asked him about the investigation, he's a manager above my direct manager. He said, "Don't talk to me. Don't talk to me about that. You wait till I come to you." And when I went and I questioned him about that just recently. He denied saying it, and he kept saying the word perception. I noticed he kept saying the word perception before during my meeting with him and my direct manager. The way he sort of defined it was I misinterpreted what he was saying and how he was saying it, and he said that I don't speak to my employees that way, and I don't know what you're talking about. So he's just practicing deception. And one thing that I failed to mention after my meeting with my direct manager and my store manager, at the end I mentioned that I was just really emotional, really uncodified, and I just started crying, and I said it's really hard to be a black man. And pretty much after that, my store manager has been sort of approaching me, trying to get me to talk about, my issues with race. And he sort of had this whole thing, well, I'm a good white, so I'll listen to your problems, or I'll somehow I just got the vibe that he was saying, well, I'm a good white, and I want you to know that, or something like that. That's just the vibe that I kept getting from him. And I would just be really vague about my issues, because just from studying racism, white supremacy, and not having the emotional capacity to deal with all the information that I was reading about, because I really became aware of race ever since I was, I think, maybe 11 or 12 when I saw the movie Rosewood when I was a young kid. At that moment, I knew I was black and I knew we had a problem. And I've been sort of prone to being having a lot of hubris and being African and just not knowing how to deal with racism, white supremacy, in a variety of situations until I learned about the code and Needless Fuller Jr. and this show and everything. But anyways, so I've been on really thin ice with my job, while this investigation has been taking place, because I've been treating my job really poorly. Just showing up late, coming late and taking too long on my breaks and lunches. I really treated the job like I was failing, and I was really depressed. So it was kind of like me being just uncodified and sloppy, and me being depressed, because I had a lot of very evil, negative thoughts where I was actually considering about taking my own life from all the information that I was receiving. And so, talking with my family, talking with my friends, helped and not helped, because we're all confused. So I got both misguided and very helpful information from non-white black people, and I've been coping with it better. But so I was late to work yesterday again, and this is my last straw where it was time for me to be terminated. So when this morning I went to go speak to my store manager and another manager about seeing if I'll be able to keep my job, and so they asked me what the problem was, and I pretty much said, I'm still depressed, because I legitimately am still depressed about racism, white supremacy, and my understanding of it. And so I pretty much was I was pretty much open and frank with them. I told them that I believe that we're in a system of racism, white supremacy, and I believe that the meaning of being white is to be a racist white supremacist, and that I've been neglecting trying to get help from you guys, because if I were to say that, I would lose my job. Because this job, I didn't know, they have resources to give people help with anything, whether it's alcohol, drug addiction, or whatever. They'll help you get help. Recently, a white male that I sometimes speak to about race, he's an alcoholic. He was off for a month or two because they helped him in rehab, and they paid for it, and so they helped him out. So pretty much, I need help. How can I stop talking about race with them if they bring it up to me? Like, I won't engage with it anymore. Like, I won't bring it up, but they'll still come to me to talk about it. And I've said some pretty frank, honest things to them, but just all throughout the meeting, they were giving me this, well, pull yourself up by your bootstraps. Here at this company, we just say, if you just work hard, it doesn't matter. If you're black or white, you can succeed in our company. And they kept trying to give me words to signify that they're good whites, and that this information that I was looking at, telling me that we're in a system of racism and white supremacy, must be false, or I must be perceiving things wrong. I must have perception problems. And I just wanted to get out of it as soon as possible. So they gave me a number for a therapist, and I spoke to a therapist while I was at work for about 45 minutes, explain my issues, and I guess they offered to give me 6 free therapy sessions to talk about my depression issues. So pretty much that's my update. And any specific advice or things that I can say in a codified manner, I don't want to talk about race anymore with you. I don't think it's productive, and I mute my line.
Wow. Black mental health. Just Dr. Frances Cress Welsing, I'm sure she would concur. Black mental health, because of the system of white supremacy, black people, none of us qualifies for mental health. I'm grateful for you being willing to share what you're going through, and I would encourage you to reach out for assistance, because racism, white supremacy, it does a job on us. That's one of the things that I mentioned. Matter of fact, Khalif Browder, the black male, he was incarcerated over allegedly stealing a backpack for 3 years as a black teen. Incarcerated for 3 years. He was released without ever being tried, convicted of anything, and he took his own life. His mother died this week. They said just, from the trauma of losing her child in such a manner. But black mental health is really important. I brought this up with Sandra Bland, Kimberly Randall King, who took her own life in she was in prison back in 2014. This is like days after Michael Brown Jr. was shot and killed. But black mental health, really, really important, just to keep that in mind, the damage that terrorism, white terrorism, the damage that it does to us psychologically, and reach out for assistance. Reach out for assistance. I know Dr. Welsing would say that if you are really kind of feeling at your wit's end, as they say. In terms of the job situation, if they're saying, what can we do to help? I think Mr. Fuller is always about being practical, like have specific things that you need, like, 2-week paid vacation or a month paid vacation, see what you can bargain for to get paid time off. And I want to be able to keep my job. Things that you need, if the therapy session, if it's working, fine. But I would think of realistic things a raise, more hours or less hours or whatever your, situation is. I would try to think of realistic things that would be helpful to you. If you don't want to talk about racism, I would just say that, I would prefer to not engage in this subject matter anymore. I've kind of said my feelings. You've shared your feelings. And I just, want to go about the business of just trying to be the best employee that I can be and, solving problems for myself and being a great employee. Let's just move forward. I would just, as bluntly as that, and it might not even be necessary to say that much, but I would just move forward and say, and I think, everybody's shared their thoughts on this subject matter and, we can just move forward with work-related subject matter. If they want to share their thoughts, that's fine. If you have any questions, that's great. But I just wouldn't bring it up anymore. And if they do, I would just say that every time. You're not interested in discussing that any further. Did other folks have input, thoughts?
Yes, I do. To the black male who was just speaking, I want to just wish you the best. I know that you're probably going through quite a bit from what you're describing to feel like you're getting to that point. I know for me, the first time I felt like committing suicide, I was about 12. So I totally understand where you're coming from. And one of my closest friends actually committed suicide after being terrorized on the job. He used to work for Apple computers. And he was a brilliant guy. He used to write do programming for them. And ultimately, he started to tell me that while he was on the job, he would go to meetings and white males would play footsies under the table with him. And make homosexual advances towards him. He's a computer programmer, so he would write all kinds of different scripts that they would use to create different programs for the company. And he said that they would also write subliminal messages to him within the programming. So it'll be like either homosexual messages or messages indicating to him that they're going to mess with his paycheck, real wacky stuff like that. So eventually he started to get severely depressed. And I talked to him about, trying to see someone. So sadly, he decided to go see a company therapist. And of course, a company therapist is going to protect the company. So over time, he felt that was non-productive. It was a white person that he was seeing. Also, he said that they prescribed him some sort of really strong narcotic drug that he did not like because he said it made him basically, to put it in his own words, it made him feel like a zombie. He felt like he couldn't think straight. He couldn't function normally. So he self-medicated with marijuana to not have to use whatever narcotic they were giving him. And he didn't use it often, but he did use it. And then eventually he had he just started calling me, and he would just call me, and we would have these long conversations. He would talk to my wife when I wasn't at work, and she would tell me about the discussions they had, and he would basically just call to just get it off his chest, tell us what they were doing to him. At one point, in the beginning, he didn't think we believed him. I said, listen, there's nothing you can tell me that I won't believe, simply because I know how white people function. And eventually we were having a conversation, and I didn't realize that the day that I talked to him was the day that he passed away. I didn't find out until maybe about 7 days later that he had passed away and that he committed suicide by jumping off of a 19th floor of a building. And it was just a really horrific thing for me as a close friend of his. And it's something that we really have to take seriously. It's one of the most important things we can do as a people is Black mental health. Again, that also goes back to what I talked about earlier with Black people, terrorizing other Black people and giving white people the feeling that it's okay because other Black people don't really care about the Black person I'm abusing because they're also facilitating the abuse. All of these things can lead to things like this, and we really have to think about the things we do and say to one another simply because one of the Black females was saying we're really, a downtrodden, abused, and just people in severe pain and severe psychological discomfort on a 24/7 basis, and we have to keep that in mind. That's something that I try to do anytime I encounter Black people, and if I see that a Black person gives me a response that's either aggressive or just, they're just standoffish, I just, I chalk it up. Hey, I understand. I know what it's like to be victimized, and you just don't want to be bothered. I get it. So I try to be as understanding as possible. Coming from a past where I ran the streets, so I created a lot of problems for Black people back then when I was younger and much less codified and much less informed. As much as I caused problems for white people, I caused quite a bit for my own, so I understand I come from that background, but I've worked quite a bit on that, and that's something I will work on for the rest of my natural life. Thank you, and I'll meet my line.
Can I be heard?
Yes, sir.
A lot of people on the line probably are well aware of the two separate incidents, I believe, of Black female physicians who were chastised in the most condescending way, not to believe as being physicians by, I think, the same airline. I could be wrong, but that happened at least twice within a week. That was brought out that I saw. Also, back to the experience of white females being envious and or jealous of non-white Black females. I especially have observed that on the job that I was on. The fire department, especially out in the field, is unique because everybody wears the same uniform. And you're talking about trousers as well as a shirt, excuse me, and an undershirt. And then when you go on a fire call, everybody has to quickly change clothes and whatnot. So everybody gets to see everybody, and I can almost tell by the looks of the white females. A lot of these white females who they hire, they would be older, and with the nature of the different shapes that white females primarily on a basic way have, with with a flat bottom and that sort of thing, and a lot of them look haggard. And they were old, like I said, older, whereas due to racist white supremacy, white people actually contribute in a certain way because the non-white Black females that get hired, a lot of them are either former athletes or very athletic looking. At the same time, have been beyond high school as far as schooling is concerned. And you could almost see the envy in that type of environment. So that was very noticeable, always noticeable to me. And there were much more white females who, I want to go beyond lesbian. It was a couple of them that you couldn't tell that they were females. They looked like males. And so that's just some added feedback on what I heard earlier in the program. I certainly saw it a lot on the job that I was on. Thank you.
Anybody else?
May I be heard?
Yes, ma'am.
I just actually wanted to comment on what the gentleman was saying about feeling very depressed, and I've actually felt that exact same way, especially with my job. I also have been, dealing with depression and anxiety as long as I can remember, at least since I was like a young child. But I definitely just wanted to say that what helped me was to find a good non-white black counselor or a psychiatrist or psychologist. It'd probably be better to steer away from the people if you don't necessarily want to have a bunch of pills shoved down your throat, because I've had to be on different types of medications. And just like I'm assuming Ross has said about his friend, it does put you in that zombie state, and just like it's definitely not the type of quality of life that most people would want to live if you do have a functioning brain and you want to use it. But I would definitely make sure that I would definitely suggest getting with a black counselor. I've actually been to a number of all types of different specialists, whatever they want to call themselves, therapists, what have you. And I actually went to one counselor. She was somewhat of a younger white woman, and just discussing my problems. And one time when we were during the session, she had said, I guess she called herself trying to give me accolades and saying, well, you speak so well. And so that didn't help my depression at all. It just basically made me feel smaller than what I was. So I did end up finding a nice black gentleman. He definitely helped me out a lot. And I don't take medication, but if medication is definitely something that you want to take, I definitely would suggest, maybe steering towards a psychiatrist who can actually prescribe you medication, also provides you that counseling as well, because I've also dealt with my own suicidal thoughts, and so I definitely understand how important that is. Thank you, and I'll mute my line.
Thank you for sharing that. I really appreciate that.
Gus, I wanted to also chime in with just some things, natural things that can possibly help with that. St. John's wort has been helpful for people with depression, and also aromatherapy using essential oils like bergamot, lavender, chamomile, and liang liang. Those are the top 4 oils you can use for depression. And if you get like a cold water diffuser, you can actually run it, and it'll basically put droplets in the air and fill up a room that you're in. Or you can actually inhale it directly as the vapors are coming out of the diffuser, and it can also help maybe with those sorts of situations as well. So I just wanted to throw that out there. Mm-hmm. Thank you.
Appreciate that.
Can I share something real quick?
Yes, sir.
I just wanted to tell the gentleman that was talking concerning depression, I would say that counseling is the best solution, and maybe sometimes cost can be an issue, but there are a lot of counselors that can work with you, especially some of the black counselors. If you talk with them and let them know your situation, they can really, really help you out, even without insurance or whatever. Counseling is the best solution. And if when I first started listening to the show, I was in my own situation, but I also became extremely depressed, and I reached out to some of the people that I heard on the show, and For example, Niana Rasayan, I was in Washington, D.C. at the time, and I reached out to him, and I actually met him. And we actually had a really nice talk. He talked with me for like about an hour, and that was, I mean, it really, really gave me a lot of spirit, and it gave me a lot of, a lot of strength, I want to say. So there are people that come on the show. Reach out to them. You can. I would suggest that you write Gus an email, see who you can see. But a lot of the people that come on the show are like people that actually want to help. And then just one last suggestion for the black female in the basement work. I would suggest that you also get a teaser. They have all types now, that are. They can be pink. It can look like a flashlight. It can look like all kinds of things. And because sometimes, with a knife you might have to use force, but with a taser, the person can be right next to you. You don't even have to use force, and you can, shock them to oblivion. So yeah, those are my 2 suggestions. Thank you.
Appreciate that, definitely. Shout out to Dr. Niana Rasayan. The caller at 4130, did you have a commentary you want to share? 4130.
May I be heard?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, I wanted to share some advice for the previous male caller. I actually use passion flower oil. I make a tea out of it using green tea. And I put about 2 drops of that. You can find it on Amazon.com or possibly Whole Foods. It helps greatly with my anxiety. And I also wanted to share a few incidents that has occurred at my place of work. I've been there for a little over a year now. The events are very recent as we have a high turnover rate. The most recent event occurred with my new manager. I put in a request to transfer to the department so I could have the opportunity to work from home. And in the department I currently work in, I am one of 2 people with the same title. Although we have the same title, we do have separate duties. That she doesn't technically know everything that I do, so I'm very valuable to my team. I work in a healthcare situation. I tend to work with individuals that are close to the end of their life, helping them arrange certain things that need to be taken care of. And when I put in this transfer, or before I put in this transfer, they would always make certain jokes like, you better not run away from us, but almost in a derogatory tone, as if I was a dog. And when I put in the transfer, I did not alert my immediate manager or supervisor. They actually heard from the supervisor of the department I was going to transfer to. And the statement was made that we won't let her steal you from us. So about 2 weeks after that comment was made, my manager pulled me aside to let me know that I was ineligible to transfer due to corrective action that was placed with the previous manager that was no longer there. Fortunately for me, that corrective action was a 6-month, suspension, you could say, that was placed on me, but the suspension was up on November 1st. I'm fairly certain that my new manager was aware of this, and about a week after giving me the news that I was ineligible for the transfer, she, I believe this was around the same time of the Philando Castile and Alton Sterling shootings. I was very depressed. Actually had severe anxiety around that time. I went to my manager and requested to have half the day off so I could go to the doctor and just overall focus on my mental health. She actually gave me a hug. This is a white woman. She gave me a hug and said, "Sure, of course." Fast forward about a week after that, she wrote me up for going home after she gave me permission to do so. So that kind of reinstated the corrective action and started it all over. So now I'll be on corrective action for another 6 months, hindering a transfer within those 6 months. Another situation that happened with
Can I just pause really quick? I want to hear your other situation, but the deceitfulness, what I'm submitting, and again, sometimes if you listen to the programs in the order that they came out, when we had Allison Manswell on the program, who had a lot of great information, and she hung out for the full 2.5 hours, AllisonManswell.com, but where the questions about whether whites are unconscious, right? Like people who classify themselves as white, whether they do these things knowingly or are they unaware or not conscious. What I'm saying is that it is beyond the limits of what we conventionally conceive of as treacherous behavior. What I'm submitting is that this race soldier, this white woman, to give you a hug, "Oh, I feel so bad for you. You've got to go to the doctor. I hope you're doing well," can turn immediately from holding you literally in her clutches and begin writing you up, got her. Nigga went home, boop, boop, boop. Put that in the same day while they're looking at you as though they care about you. I'm submitting that is not unconscious, that they delight, they love, they absolutely live for terrorizing and traumatizing black people. That makes their day. That's their inspiration for getting up in the morning. Some of them do it with a smile. Some of them are more covert. Some of them brag. Some of them will call you a nigger. But at the end of the day, that is right there, what you just shared. That is the essence of what it means to be white. That's what I'm submitting. Let's hear your next incident.
I would absolutely agree. I do have a brief incident or series or relationship, I'll say, that I would like to contribute, although it's not related to workplace racism. I'm actually the female that wrote the email to you and asked if my commentary would be relevant because I'm mixed. My mother is white. She works at this office. And there recently, thank you. Recently, I've come to terms that my mother tried to instill racism in me as a child and my siblings. And as an adult, as I became to become more conscious of white supremacy and racism, that's when my relationship with her really completely fell apart. But just to add a little tidbit or an example into that, she would refer to me and my siblings as nigglets and nigras. So I'll continue on with my workplace racism incident. This occurred with another white female. She's a nurse. I'm not a nurse. She claims to have been raised in the same area of the city. I'm from Houston. She claims to have been raised in the same area. I come from an area or lived in the projects that were referred to as jailhouse. So in the beginning of her transition to our department, I actually trained her briefly for a few days. And so I guess she believed that she could connect with me by coming from the same area. So she then randomly, she likes to, what I refer to as Columbus. She likes the Columbus conversations that I have with other coworkers. And the telltale phrase of when she's going to Columbus conversation, she begins with, and you know, so this instance, she says, and you know, I have this neighbor that lives in my trailer park. He's one of those people that they're so dark you can't see them at night. After she said that, I walked away. there was recently, last week, there was another instance where she came to my cubicle and she said, so, my husband's on Facebook and, I'm not on Facebook because my husband's a voyeur. And you're either a voyeur or a narcissist. I wasn't very sure what voyeur meant, so I did have to Google this. Apparently, it's a sexual term for someone who likes to spy on others and gets sexual arousal. But those were my incidents. That's all I had to contribute. Thank you.
She said you're either a voyeur or a what?
A voyeur or a narcissist.
Oh, okay. I got it. That is interesting. For our listeners visually, are you able to, could you, if you wanted, could you be accepted as a white person if you wanted to?
I'm very light-skinned. People refer to me as high yellow. I'm not sure that I would be able to fully assimilate. When I was younger, I was put out of my home by my mother. I lived in a small Texas town, population less than 200, all of which of these people were Caucasian. Despite the fact that I was a confused young child and trying to fully assimilate into their culture, I was still a nigger at the end of the day.
Just for people that, folks have seen. So are you lighter than, say, like Alicia Keys? Are you lighter than her?
I've been compared to Alicia Keys. I guess I would be like a generic version of Alicia Keys as far as appearance goes, yes.
Okay. Interesting. We have done our 3 hours, back-to-back days of workplace racism. Man. We'll be here next week. Feel free if you drop an email. I think I read all the emails that I got this week, so right on. Untiljustice@gmail.com if you have a workplace racism situation that you would like to share. It's every Thursday, 8 p.m. Eastern, 5 p.m. Pacific. Hope it is a constructive investment of your time and energy. 11 consecutive days, still rolling. Hopefully, folks, we have not been wasting your October. You could be doing other things. We'll be here tomorrow, 8 p.m. Eastern, 5 p.m. Pacific, the conclusion of Sam Greenlee, the spook who sat by the door. I think next week we're starting Lothrop Stoddard, The Rising Tide of Color Against White World Supremacy. I think that's going to be next Friday. But moving forward, this week, Saturday, compensatory call-in, 9 p.m. Eastern, 6 p.m. Pacific, and then Sunday, Charles Woods, black male. He talks a lot about the history of racism in entertainment, television, film. He'll be here on Sunday, 8 p.m. Eastern, 5 p.m. Pacific. So stay tuned. Hopefully more constructive info on the way. Thanks, everyone, for tuning in. I again submit sobriety would be best under conditions of white terrorism. We want to be able to make phenomenal decisions. You never know when you will be required to make really a life-saving decision under this system. You never know when today you might have to bump into Daniel Holtzclaw, Darren Wilson, race soldier, badge or no, and your best thinking will be required. I don't think that us being under the influence is going to help us in those moments. I could be in error, but I don't think that's the case for most of us. When I say sobriety would be best, that means cigarettes, alcohol, whatever else they come up with. Sobriety would be best. That said, Creator, we ask that you help us remain patient with other black people, victims of white supremacy. We ask that you help us remain patient with ourselves. Remind us to demonstrate the highest levels of black self-respect at all times, in all places, each and every time we are in contact with another black person. It has been time. Replace white supremacy with justice immediately. Cal signing out. Thanks all for tuning in.
Nigga, you so brainwashed. I'm a victim, brother. What's the problem? You're a victim. Man, I'm a victim of 400 years of conditioning.
Shut up.
The man has programmed my conditioning. Even my conditioning has been conditioned.